Hello, we're officially, I think, working now. So, um, we can go ahead and introduce ourselves real quick. I'm Jade. I use they, them pronouns, or they, they is also okay. Um, yeah, that's it. I don't know what else to say at the beginning, so.
I'm Daira. I use fae fair pronouns. I will also accept they.
But yeah, um, I think, for the main thing today, we're raising money for Junelle Mazer Lesbian Archives. We're also raising money here on this channel throughout the rest of the month for that as well, but today we're highlighting that especially because one, the film that we're watching at the end wouldn't have been found if people weren't actively working to preserve and archive media and representation, or like literally just stories and interviews and everything like that. So it's really important that we have access to those. And also, that's just kind of a core thing from, I feel like, lesbian and sapphic history, which we'll kind of get into today. Having archival work is very important. Um, so that's kind of where our idea came from this. Especially right now when we are like kind of, like not discrimination in some ways, but also like censorship is what I'm thinking of. With representation being removed off of platforms, things for queer people are getting harder and harder to locate and find. Or being rewritten is always a problem, has been a problem forever. So making sure that we have people who are actively working against people who are trying to remove queer history or queer rights is always really important. Um, Specifically, archives have, you can go in and you can schedule to go in if you want to, or if you're nearby, you can ask to go check out what they have. Physical media, obviously, they tend to have a lot more physical media because it's sent over to them or they have a physical location, so not everything is going to be scanned. But they also tend to work in communities. And while we're mainly just raising money for this one today and focusing on the US, on our 101 page, there are international options as well. So even for Canada, for Europe, for Japan, and some other areas as well. So if you want to kind of dive into other sections and areas and their archives and the information they have, there's that as well. So we are kind of mainly focusing on that today, but while the ones that we're raising money for today, they do film festivals, they work on social media, they do posts on social media, book fairs where they share and or sell sapphic writing. They do photography and art galleries. Oh my god, I need to turn that alert down. Sometimes from the past, like historical photos, but also sometimes photographers who are specifically taking pictures to tell a story or represent their growing up as a lesbian or a sapphic person. Same with filmmakers as well. I forgot to put that in here. The filmmakers are highlighted in film festivals as well as stuff from previous archives that have been saved already. They also do social gatherings, community events, and the one that we were raising money for in specific has a partnership with UCLA to share their archives with students, which I think is really interesting. And I actually got to kind of dig around in there while I was doing this and see kind of what they have. And I think that's really cool. I think having a connection with the university is huge anyways, but knowing that students will be able to get access to certain things and it'll be like easier, not like a second website that they have to go to, it's really cool. But that's kind of what the goal was for that today. Again, we wouldn't have been able to locate the found film that we're going to be watching at the end without people who care about preserving these materials. And I personally have a lot of a soft spot for archive materials. And I know people right now are getting really big into physical media and reclaiming physical media, and I think this really goes hand in hand with that, but on a more community-based and active level where it's not even just us and like what we're working with right now, but like people who find stuff of their ancestors or from other, it's like just kind of like a gathering place for all that, and I think that's really amazing, personally. um For the first hour, we're talking mainly about, there are 4 hours, by the way, first of all. The last hour is mainly just watching the found film and like reflecting on it together. But the first one will be talking about some of the lesbian flags, symbols that you'll see or referenced to often with lesbian culture, and Sappho, where we get the term Sapphic from as well. Some basic history and some more in-depth history things that we thought maybe deserve more acknowledgement, or things that have had a really big impact on where we are today, or things that really connect to what we're talking about in the third hour about representation, things that are going on currently, things that lesbians and Sapphics and, you know, anyone under the women love women umbrella kind of are thinking about, talking about, have kind of come in contact with throughout our modern day. And then also growing up Sapphic, which is, I think, kind of a big thing that really pushed me towards this, is thinking about like, I'm an adult now, so like, and I always knew I was gay, so like that was never, I always knew I was into women, and that was something I was dealing with since I was like a child. So, but I think being older, like looking back on them, like how could that have been better for me, and how could that have been, like what were the things that could have changed, and like where did some of that stuff come from, like other than me, like because like I didn't just come up with these ideas, or like these internalized homophobia or compulsory heterosexuality, like we don't just like admit those on our own. They're like taught or learned, or you know, even just like from our own ancestors and our own experience in DNA. But there is gonna be, I will say, like the first 2 hours are probably more like dense information heavy, but as we get into the third hour, we're gonna get a lot more conversation based, and less like we're having less academic, I'll say. Like I don't know, intellectual. What would you say the word is here?
No, I think that's correct. Like,
Okay.
yeah, less dense, less intellectual. Yeah.
Okay. My shirt is falling. I am so sorry, y'all. But yeah, like I said earlier, this is primarily focused on US and US related situations with lesbians and Sapphics, besides talking about Sappho and the island of Lesbos and Greek reclamation of the term, or attempts at that. Like I said, in the 101, there are more links and archives for national options. Also, Daira and I use the word queer. We both accept and embrace the word queer, at least, if not for ourselves, for others. And as well, this panel is trans inclusive, so transphobes and TERFs will not be allowed. Comments at least won't be allowed like that. Therefore, trans people in our chat, you are safe here, and we will make sure that you can have a safe experience. Content warnings. Yes. Some slurs like dyke or some others might be present. Obviously, we're talking about history and about current day, so that's gonna, things like that are gonna come up. Some sections might bring up strong emotions for some people, especially the documentary. Every time I watch it, I get very emotional, but that's just because like it makes me feel so soft and like I don't know. And also we do reference current media right now, and especially talking about narratives or tropes that are harmful. So some pictures that we use from TV shows or movies might have some gore, not super gore, like just like red on the clothing, and like one of the characters is holding a knife at one point, but it's not even the prime, like the focal point of the photo. It's just present. So if you see it and you're like, oh my god, then yeah, that's what it was there for. And they are there for a reason. Like I'm not just putting those in to like just like jump scare trigger you. They are related to like harmful tropes that are there in media. But speaking of which, as we're talking about content, media, shows, I don't think we're talking about books as much, but I tried to make sure we were mindful of spoilers in making the panel. I'm gonna be honest, if I get passionate later about talking about something, I might spoil something, and I'm sorry if I do. I'll try my best though. Like I'm really trying not to spoil anything if I do. if it do, it'll be probably for a reason. And just make sure in chat that we're being mindful of if you're like referencing a spoiler, and what it's about as well. So just people like can be mindful. Because I mean, a lot of people haven't had a lot of interaction with Sapphic media yet, so sometimes having that stuff spoiled ahead of time, it's kind of like, well, why would I watch that if I already know that, like, they're gonna die at the end, or if, or like, if blah blah blah, you know? But yeah, just keep that in mind. Yeah, exactly. And I would definitely, again, check out the 101 slide. There's options in different languages as well. The top part is all, kind of like things that either didn't make it into the presentation or things that we found and we're like, well, this is kind of cool, or this is something that people might want to look into. And then below that is all the sources. After that, on the very, very long part at the bottom is all the sources. So, I think that's it for this part. Do you have anything that you want to say before we get started, Daira? I want to give you a chance too, if you have anything that we don't have right here that we're noticing.
Nope. All good.
Cool. Okay, so we're mainly starting with the flags first, which, the Labrys flag is like our earliest one, we'll say. It was originally made by a gay man, Sean Campbell. But he was making it for a publication for a Pride magazine to show what kind of flags and symbolism was being used in the 60s and 70s when the lesbian feminism movement was kind of first starting. While this flag is so cool, I think it's so cool, TERFs and trans-exclusionary lesbians have been co-opting it for like 10 plus years, 20 plus years now, even longer than that maybe. So it's kind of hit or miss. It's hit or miss on that point, but the double-headed axe is a symbol that you'll see throughout, but it was associated with female Greek goddesses, priestesses, and like women of power. So it was often used. The black triangle is in reference to Nazis. I should have put a trigger warning for that, actually. Damn. But the reclamation of the black triangle, which was used to categorize lesbians as antisocial. The violet background is for the significance with violets and lavender and such with lesbians, which we'll talk a bit more about later. But yeah, I wouldn't say if you see this flag, it's not always like a TERF thing, but it's something to be aware of and something that is often used, and some lesbians are trying to reclaim it, which I'll show again later too, but just kind of like one of our first flags that we really used. In the 2000s, lipstick lesbian was a term that, well, actually in like the 90s and 2000s, lipstick lesbian was a term that was going up, especially with chapstick lesbian and all that kind of stuff. Especially with the L word, it popularized a lot of terms like that. But Natalie McRae was a blogger at the time who would often write about lesbian topics. She's been exposed for being not a great person, so people kind of have stepped away from using this flag, or they removed the kiss mark, or they've just called it the pink flag, or adjusted it. Sex in the City, it does give Sex in the City. Oh my god, I kind of see it. But yeah, so when people were understanding and realizing that this creator was kind of like had very specific ideas about what lesbians should be, what they should look like, what they should act like, etc., people kind of moved away from using it and were trying to find a new pride flag, which that actually took place mostly on Tumblr. They were doing a lot of polls on there to find a better alternative, which is where we'll kind of see where some of these other ones came out of. But yeah, people kind of move away from this. It was meant to... I think Natalie was describing it as basically like she didn't like that there wasn't a specific lesbian flag other than like, you know, if you know gay men, bears have the paw print. There's a few others, but there's like ones to distinguish specific groups. So she wanted to make something specifically for femme lesbians or high femme lesbians. So the intention was cool, but like her ideology behind it is something else. In the response to making this, some creators made butch flags, kind of like a alternative or like an opposite of the high femme flag or the stick lesbian flag. They both represent the mask lesbian community. You might see both of these. Personally, I see this one the most, the bottom one the most, and I like the bottom one, but I feel like the top one reminds me most of Daira's color scheme, so I kind of like it. You do? I like it. It's kind of like very chill, but like I don't know, they give me very different vibes, so it's like depending on my mood, but the top one was mainly just a cool toned shift of the Sapphic lesbian flag that we'll see in a minute, and the bottom one has.
Mask lesbian now.
You kind of want to be this just for the flag, right? I mean, it's never too late. I'm just but the bottom one has red, orange, white, yellow, and a couple shades of brown. The top one is supposed to be passion, sexuality, courage, joy, renewal, chivalry, warmth, and honesty, which is in, you know, contrast to some of the more feminine terms that people were using to describe the other pride flags. But yeah, the main one that we see is the orange or pink. It's called the orange and pinks or sunset flag, or just the lesbian flag at this point. I've also seen it in the simplified 5-color design. The top one is for gender non-conformity. 2 is independence, or orange is independence, light orange is community. White is unique relations to womanhood. Pink is serenity and peace. The second to last one is love and sex. And the 7th one is femininity. So these ones are definitely, especially the bottom one was supposed to be kind of a more mask friendly or mask affirming flag for lesbians as well. Also, speaking of Sapphics, we have the Sapphic flag. The first one on the top was kind of our original. I'm sorry for all my alerts. They're gonna go off. I need to turn those down. And the top one is, they kind of moved away from it just because it was harder to print and put out, but the Sapphic flag is used to encompass people under the WLW Willow flag by pan non-binary. The violet in the center is related to Sappho and the growing culture in lesbians in the earlier times of giving violets to each other. And yeah, it was updated. Willow, I love it when women, me too. Me too. I think this is so pretty. I wish we would see it more, but I understand why. But it is really cool. It's really pretty, I think. Oh, also for the reclamation especially. I love this flag. I think it's so cool. It has the same triangle to kind of reclaim the antisocial or asocial term or whatever. Same with the Labrys, trying to reclaim that in a way that's not connected with the violet background, you know, the specific one that's being used by TERFs. I actually kind of like this one a lot, and it was just made by somebody on Reddit. I saw it while I was looking around, and I was like, I would get that. They have it printed, and I would get it too, but I would say so violets are also part of our key symbols, and the black triangle is part of the what we talked about earlier with the Labrys flag. Sorry, I want to avoid the trigger warnings again if I can, because I already said it earlier, but Sappho is where we get the term from of Sapphic, so that's kind of like where we're gonna start, since she's like our earliest lesbian. She was born on the island of Lesbos, which is where we'll talk about a bit more later, to a really wealthy family, so she had access to writing, she had access to poetry, to education. That's a key point. She would not have been remembered or archived or anything if she was not rich. She was definitely well talented as a poet, and was referred to as the 10th muse. A lot of her poetry is very loving of women, very affectionate to women. And I would definitely check out the 101. Thank you, Autumn. I would definitely check out the 101 as well, because there is some archives of her writing that you can read if you're curious as well about like what she was saying specifically. But as her work got more popular, lesbian became more synonymous with being into women, rather than just being about people who are from the island. Um, yeah, omitting the term lesbian to describe affections of Sapphic love, which makes some problems later, but we'll get into that. You want to go into this, Daira? Oh my god, not fishbone on the top. Go ahead. Sorry.
Hi. Hello. To understand the word, you have to go back over 25,000 years to the Greek island of Lesbos. The island is located in the northeastern Aegean Sea, between Greece and Turkey, and it is the third largest Greek island. It's the most famous resident. Its most famous resident was the poet Sappho. Sappho was born in the village of Scala Erissos, around 630 BC. She was known in her time as the 10th Muse, a title given to her by the philosopher Philodemus of Gadara. She was also described by her contemporary Alcalus as violet-haired, pure, honey smiling. Of the 10,000 lines of poetry she wrote, only about 650 survive today. Much of it was burned by religious fundamentalists or simply lost to time. But what we do have is filled with passionate, erotic longing for other women. She wrote things like, "Once again, love drives me on, the loosener of limbs, bittersweet creature against which nothing can be done." Um, Now, here's a fascinating historical tidbit. Historians later claimed that Sappho was married to a man called Cerculus of Andros, but this was almost certainly a joke, a piece of ancient trolling, if you will. The name roughly translates to Dick Alcock, from the Isle of Man. The Greeks had a sense of humor, and it seems they were trying to imply she was so gay that even her husband had a ridiculous phallic sounding name. So the word lesbian is, oh wait, I shall stop there, right? Yeah.
Thank you. Well then,
Yes.
my husband, man, Dick McBalls. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Tyra.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think it's wild the way that we always love trolling. I may or may not be borrowing that name. We've been trolling since the beginning of time. Isn't that beautiful to think about?
Absolutely.
Rage baiting till, oh my god, we've been rage baiting since the core of humanity. But as we were saying earlier, violets were seen on the Sapphic flag, and they were also referred to in Sappho's poetry. Later on, there was a play called The Captive that was written, and the main character receives violets from her girlfriend, or her secret girlfriend. It had trouble in the US, obviously. People were not a huge fan of it, but audiences internationally have started to wear a violet pin to their shirt, and that obviously when it started to get news in the US that, oh, people actually are kind of liking this play, we should kind of like give it a chance. The lesbians in the US who also started attending would wear the violet on their shirt. So it came kind of more synonymous with lesbians to give violets to each other, especially because obviously it's like in the play. So it's kind of like paying homage to something that almost feels like a secret in a way, even though it kind of wasn't. But it ended up being our first color on the pride flag, even if it's a bit darker. And lavender began to be associated with lesbians as well. Any kind of those two colors together are pretty associated with us. I thought it was really cool and I think it's important to note that while we have violets in the US and part of Europe as well, in Japan they consider white lilies to be tradition in Sapphic culture, which is so pretty. I think those are just like a really pretty choice. Oh yeah, I was speaking of more roots and symbols. Another symbol would be the nautical star, which people are still doing, but it was kind of more of a trend in the 1950s, especially with more working women to get a nautical star tattoo, especially where it could be covered up by like a wristwatch or something like that. Especially for working women, that was really helpful. Obviously, this isn't just for lesbians. I will say, like, it's for rockers and like quite a few other demographics as well. But context is important here. Like, if you see a woman with a watch and then she takes it off in a gay bar, or like in a bar full of primarily women, like you know what's going on. It's like, but if someone is, a punk rocker and they're at a show or in a music store, you can use context, or figure it out. But it became another form of code, especially for working women. But they were still something that we felt the need that we had to hide or keep protected, especially because it wasn't safe to just like have that out. Um, like we were talking about earlier, the labrys was considered a feminine symbol or symbol with the feminine symbolism behind the labrys. It became a well-known symbol used by lesbians, especially politically active ones. Um, People don't use it as much now because of the turfs, but there are still people who use it. This picture was actually pretty recent, the one on the top. It was pretty recent, and it was I'm assuming it was flown in good faith. The interlocking Venus symbol was like actually kind of one of our default pride flags as well, which you can see on the bottom. They would either just like put it in the corner or they would just slap it on the middle, which I'm glad we've gotten a bit more creative. But the interlocking Venus symbol used to be really common. People used to wear jewelry of it, have symbols of it hidden somewhere so people could tell as well, I think. But I'm kind of glad personally that we've moved away from this just because of it's not very inclusive. But I don't know. It's still, I remember being younger and looking this up and being like, I don't know, blushy about it. Like being like, oh, that's so cute. I like that. Oh, yeah, stickers especially.
Yep.
I think it's cute, but I don't know. It's definitely like feels like my childhood with the thing. But oh yeah, Daira, here you go. Moving on. You were reared up to go on this earlier.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. So some history on the word lesbian. So the word lesbian is a demonym. It means someone from the island of Lesbos. The association with erotic love between women dates to at least 1732 in English, when William King used it in his book The Toast. Lesbianism was first attested in 1870, and the noun form using lesbian to describe a person was first recorded in 1925. But there's a significant gap between Sappho's life and the explicit association of Lesbos with same-sex attraction. So, professor of classic studies Kate Gilly, I'm going to say, notes that ancient Athenian perceptions of Lesbos as an island full of beautiful but promiscuous women may have contributed. She argues that a complex, centuries-long collocation of cultural conceptions eventually paved the way for the strong association of Lesbos with an image of alternative feminine sexuality. The island itself has layered meaning. It is not a space created for queer women, but one that has been meaningfully embraced by them over time. Today, the village of Scala Eressos, Sappho's birthplace, is considered the center of the island's queer community. It has become a pilgrimage site. Oh wait, are we on the next one? Not yet. Okay, sorry. Is considered the center of the island's queer community. It has become a pilgrimage site for lesbians worldwide, hosting events like the International Erosos Women's Festival, the Queer Ranch Festival, and the Magic Nights Queer Film Festival. There's a sense of connection, freedom, and history there that you can't find anywhere else. Now, it's important to distinguish between lesbian and sapphic, which is slide 18.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. The term sapphic is related. The term sapphic is related, coming directly from Sappho's name. But today, it often serves as a broader umbrella term for many non-man attracted to other non-men. This can include bisexual, pansexual, and other queer women and non binary people. While all lesbians are sapphic, not all sapphics identify as lesbian. The term provides more fluidity and can be used to describe the vibe, romance, and attraction that comes with a loving woman. The word lesbian has a living contested history. In 2008, some residents of Lesbos actually tried to ban homosexual women from using the word lesbian. They argued that the word had been appropriated and that their women folk could no longer call themselves lesbians in the original geographic sense. The court rejected the lawsuit, but it shows the power and controversy that still surrounds this word. Sapphic Visibility Day takes place on April 9th, followed by Lesbian Visibility Week from April 21st to 27th, reflecting the distinguish between the two terms. The resurgence of Sapphic in recent years, particularly online, speaks to a desire for more inclusive language that avoids the gatekeeping and identity policing that has historically accompanied lesbian. So the word lesbian is far more than a label. It's a bridge connecting us to ancient poetry, a Greek island, and a global community that has fought for centuries to exist, love, and be seen. Okay, so now we're gonna go over Betty Friedan's Lavender Menace. So now we move forward in time to the 1970s, a moment of incredible political theater and radical feminism. This is the story of the Lavender Menace. In 1969, Betty Friedan, the co founder and president of the National Organization for Women, or NOW, referred to lesbians as a lavender menace. She was terrified the lesbians would undermine the credibility of the feminist movement, which was already struggling to gain mainstream acceptance. She saw lesbians as a threat, a man hating caricature that would scare away straight women. The term lavender menace was a deliberate play on the red menace of communism, invoking Cold War era fears of infiltration. The color lavender had been associated with queerness since the early 20th century. Some queer people wore light purple lapels to signal their sexuality to others in the 1930s. Under Friedan's direction, NOW, or the National Organization for Women, attempted to distance itself from lesbian causes. The New York chapter of the Daughters of Bilitis, the first lesbian rights organization, was actually omitted from the list of sponsors for the first Congress to Unite Women in November 1969. But lesbians were already deeply involved in the feminist movement. They were doing the work, attending the meetings, and fighting for equality, and they were tired of being told to hide who they were. The spark for the protest came from an unexpected source. On March 15th, 1970, straight radical feminist Susan Brown Miller wrote a piece in the New York Times Magazine quoting Friedan's remarks. Brown Miller dismissed Friedan's worries as a lavender herring, perhaps, but no clear and present danger. Lesbian feminist Michaela Griffo took Brown Miller's words as a scathing put down and evidence of Susan's homophobia. She attended a gay liberation front lesbian dance in a shirt that read, "I am a lavender herring," and this sparked the idea for a coordinated protest. So on May 1st, 1970, a group of about 17 women, mostly from the Gay Liberation Front and from NOW, organized what they called a ZAP at the Second Congress to Unite Women in Manhattan's Chelsea neighborhood. Um, the conference featured not a single open lesbian on the program. The action was theatrical and unforgettable. Just as the first speaker approached the microphone, the activists cut the lights and pulled the plug on the sound system. When the lights came back on, the aisles were lined with women wearing lavender t shirts emblazoned with Lavender Menace. Carla J., then 23 years old, stood up and declared, "Sisters, I'm so tired of being in the closet in the women's movement. This is too much already." She ripped off her blouse to reveal a Lavender Menace t shirt underneath. And when Rita Mae Brown ripped off her Lavender Menace shirt, she revealed another one underneath, a moment of theatrical humor that won over the audience. Many audience members joined the protest, yelling, "Yes, yes, sisters," as the group took over the stage and microphone. The protesters handed out mimeographed copies of a 10-paragraph manifesto entitled The Woman Identified Woman. This document placed lesbianism at the center of feminist politics as a political, cultural, and erotic resistance to patriarchy. It argued that lesbians were the rage of all women condensed to the point of explosion and embodied the core feminist value of not being defined or controlled by a male partner. The manifesto also challenged the male gaze. It argued that when straight women treat lesbians as potential sex objects, they are accepting male cultural conditioning and oppressing their sisters, much as they themselves have been oppressed by men. The manifesto is widely remembered as one of the most important documents in the creation of lesbian feminism. After the initial protest, the group used the microphone for a spontaneous speak out on lesbianism in the feminist movement. Several protesters were invited to run workshops the next day on lesbian rights and homophobia. The group renamed itself first to Lesbian Liberation, then to the Radical Lesbians. The impact was immediate and lasting. In September 1971, at the next National Now conference, delegates adopted a resolution recognizing the oppression of lesbians as a legitimate concern of feminism. Frieden did not fully acknowledge lesbian participation until the 1977 National Women's Conference in Houston, where she admitted her homophobic feelings to the audience. How brave. In 2024, several of the original Lavender Menace protesters reunited at the Stonewall National Monument Visitor Center. Carla Jay called the action the single most important action organized by lesbians who wanted the women's movement to acknowledge our presence and needs. Martha Shelley offered this advice to activists today. If you try, if you fight, you may lose. But if you don't fight, you will certainly lose. And if you do fight, you have a good chance of winning. The Lavender Menace Zap is widely remembered as a turning point in the second wave feminist movement and a founding moment for lesbian feminism. It helps inspire the development of a distinctive lesbian culture in the 1970s, including women's music and women-centered communities, and it laid the groundwork for the lesbian Her Story archives and the political lesbian concept. The lesson? A small group of 17 people completely reshaped the relationship. Whew. Oh my God. The relationship to feminism for years to come. That is the power of direct action.
I think we want to highlight definitely some BIPOC representation and recognition, especially because, I mean, if I'm being honest, Black people were already, and people of color in general, were already having to fight for their rights before any white queer was. So they had organization skills, and I wouldn't even say skills, they had initiative to get things moving. So a lot of our progress from today we can actually attribute to specifically Black lesbians, or, you know, lesbians of color, Sapphics of color. But also, I want to say, with especially regarding representation, white people are often given the bulk of the initial recognition, praise, or representation, which, I mean, you can see that even with, like, disabled representation, it's usually focusing on, you know, white people, and then it went to Black people as a form of tokenization. And then if it's on queer people, it's about white people, and then it's on Black people, and then it's about people of color, and then it's about interracial or whatever. It's usually always starting with representing white people first. So that's something that I think we need to actively work against. Preserving and embracing BIPOC queer history is vital as well, especially with archival work. As we move forward as a society, and I think as we have more people who are identifying as lesbians and Sapphics, and more people who are concerned with preserving history, we specifically need to focus on Latina lesbians, Black lesbians, Indigenous lesbians, Asian identifying lesbians, disabled, fat, neurodivergent, etc. Because, I don't know, it gets boring if it's all the same. I'm sorry, but it is. But so also, it is, and more archival work needs to go towards preserving representation of these communities. Here's the real question. They're still in here. Okay, I'm gonna say something. We might as well.
Wait, hold on. Yeah, Jane, because Jane's a VIP in my chat. So I just wanna know, like, what do you mean? Because I know they normally don't come from a bad place, you know? Was directed at the one conference Daira was talking about, not about you two here tonight.
I do think that
Yeah, okay.
conference was okay. Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause, Jane has never, like, has said, like, anything in bad faith, so that's why I was also confused. So I think they meant it at a very specific time.
Okay. No worries. I mean, I didn't know. I asked and I hadn't gotten a response yet, so I wasn't sure. But regardless, I also do want to say though that the reaction at that was made by people with the right heart. Yeah, but only okay, I get what you mean. No worries. Okay. Um sorry, we have very like strict rules right now for especially my mods have very strict rules that I've given them. So they're probably just a bit more anxious and hopping on that. I'm sorry for people getting anxious on you, but
Yeah.
um I just didn't want people to keep talking about it in chat. So that's why I wanted to talk about it. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to be like, I'm gonna call out your chat. I just mean like, I think we should talk about it so people don't keep replying to somebody over and over again. Um,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, you're good. I was also, like, confused, so I thank you for stopping. So I think we're
Okay.
good.
Okay. Angela Davis is probably uh one of the most well known, especially as a member of the Black Panther Party and several other activist movements. She was a trailblazer in Black feminist studies. She's currently with Gina Dent, who is also or used to be a professor. I'm not sure if they both still are right now. I read so much recently. I can't remember who is who at this point with all the reading I've done, but um she's vocal about the intersectionality of identity, the prison industrial complex, and how structural racism affects everyday communities. And I think it's very important that we continue to honor them, especially who came up during times of extreme repression, like Lisbeth said. I would also say focusing on the intersectionality of identity is pretty huge, especially when being in the prison industrial complex. I would be curious to know what her input was on Orange is the New Black. I know that's random, but I'm very curious what she thought about that, especially with, you know, so many queer, and yeah, I don't know. Sorry, random side tangent. Me just being like, wait a second, what would she think about that? But she is definitely one of our examples. And her partner as well. She is working on many of the same causes. They've both gone together to speak up against prison industrial complex and also just like how the system is racist and harmful and several different things. I could go on for a long time. I should stop. But yeah, so they're still both doing active work to this day. I think great examples of what a politically active lesbian can look like. Audre Lorde and Frances Clayton, although they divorced at one point, I do think they're very much worth mentioning, especially as the work that they did for interracial relationships and lesbians. I think that's something that really having a direct like ancestor or someone to get advice or input from was probably really huge at the time. Audre Lorde, of course, very famous writer, very famous activist. She married a professor, Frances Clayton, and
Love her.
Frances, yeah, same. And Frances ended up giving up their position at an Ivy League university. They'd been teaching for a long while. They were very smart. She was very smart. She had a lot of interesting things that she was working on, but regardless, she moved and traveled with Audre Lorde to help her work get recognition and to do direct work with queer communities, and I think that's really sweet as well. They're just so, I think that's really cute. And I think especially when I was talking about intersectionality, I think this is still pretty applicable to today and what we're talking about on the panel of like the future of our Earth may depend on the ability of all women to identify and develop new definitions of power and patterns of relating across difference. I think that's something that's always been pretty keen to the lesbian feminism movement, and also things that people don't like about lesbians, for pointing out those things and understanding and defining what we see happening in the world, but I think, or experience, but I think that's still very, very beneficial for a community to work through, personally. Um, Donna Burkett and Minonia Evans were the first couple to really push to get same-sex marriage, and really got a lot of media attention at the time. In 1971, they applied for a marriage license and were denied. They were told that Wisconsin law prohibited married people between the same sex. The couple sued in district courts, but their case was dismissed on a technicality. Their lawyer just like forgot to like outline their argument or something like that. It was very much not their fault, which is really disappointing. But um Donna at the time had said the law should protect us and help us the way it does for any two straight people who love each other and want to live together. That's our civil rights. And they married on Christmas Day in a ceremony by a gay reverend, and they obviously brought more eyes to the idea of marriage and civil rights for queer Americans. Donna even spoke in 2024 saying that she didn't think that any of this was really like a movement. She wasn't trying to do anything. She doesn't think that her and Minonia deserve any form of recognition for this, because at the time it felt selfish for them. Like it felt like we deserve this. This is like our right. It's not like we're trying to do this for the whole community. It's just we love each other. We want that to happen. And I think that's a very interesting difference for someone to be very open about, especially, with the difference in what people face and what people also, advocate for. But she seemed very adamant that like it was not her and Minonia that did the work, but it was very much everyone else their who saw their case, who felt like they deserved better, or like who brought more eyes to civil rights in general and marriage rights for queer people. So I think that's really interesting. It definitely set off kind of a rolling effect from then on. Also, they're just like, I don't know, this picture's so cute to me. I think they're so cute. But yeah, so those are some I think notable figures especially. But moving into kind of how the lesbian culture has developed, I'll let Daira take over for a bit.
Yep. So we're going to talk about some pioneering community infrastructure. So this is the Daughters of Bilitis and the Ladder. So before the protests, before the zaps, before the bars proliferated, there was the organizing. And at the heart of early lesbian organizing was the Daughters of Bilitis. Founded in San Francisco in 1955, the Daughters of Bilitis was the first lesbian civil and political rights organization in the United States. It started as a small, secret social club with just 8 members. The name came from a collection of poems called Song of Bilitis, in which Bilitis was a female character associated with Sappho. It was a code name, a way for members to identify themselves without outing each other. In October 1956, I'm just going to say DOB, published the first issue of The Ladder, the first nationally distributed lesbian publication in the United States. It was the primary method of communication for the organization. The first issues were made on a typewriter, copied on a mimeograph, and hand stapled. They were distributed in brown paper covers. There were only 175 copies of the first issue, but The Ladder was a lifeline. Historian Marcia Gallo wrote that for women who came across a copy, The Ladder was a lifeline. It was a means of expressing and sharing otherwise private thoughts and feelings, of connecting across miles and disparate daily lives, of breaking through isolation and fear. The newsletter included calendars of events, bowling nights, panel discussions, monthly meetings that worked to build solidarity outside of bar culture. The publication's Readers Respond section allowed the subscribers to share their stories and opinions, creating a sense of solidarity and visibility among lesbians all over America. The DOB's mission statement was printed in every issue until 1970. It focused on education both of lesbians themselves to help them understand themselves and adjust to society, and of the public to break down taboos and prejudices. It was a cautious, assimilationist approach, but it was radical for its time. However, the DOB also faced significant tensions. Their politics of respectability called for lesbians to conform to normative gender and class ideals, which further marginalized women who could not easily or legitimately occupy normative categories. Editors used heteronormativity strategically to normalize their publication and make it acceptable to mainstream audiences. This was the erasure of queer identities that didn't comply with the sense of normalcy demanded by public heterosexual spaces. The DOB faced internal conflicts over whether to align with male dominated gay rights groups like the is it Mattachine? Society or embrace lesbian separatism. By 1970, the DOB disbanded as a national organization, but its legacy is immense. They had the groundwork for the radical movements that followed. They published the first national lesbian magazine. They built a community from nothing. The DOB and lesbian bars represented complementary forms of infrastructure. Bars provided physical, embodied spaces for connection. The latter provided intellectual and emotional connection across geographical distance. Both faced the same tension, balancing acceptance from mainstream society with crafting positive, nuanced lesbian identities, and both laid essential groundwork for the post-Stonewall explosion of queer visibility and activism. Right? Yes. Okay, so now we move on to lesbian bars as community infrastructure. So we turn to the physical spaces that made community possible, the lesbian bars. Before the internet, before dating apps, there was the bar. And for decades, for many lesbians, the bar was the only place they could go to be among their people. In the 1980s, there were roughly 200 lesbian bars operating across the United States. Following the Stonewall riots in 1969, lesbian bars proliferated dramatically during the 1970s, reflecting heightened visibility and demands for autonomous spaces amid broader feminist and LGBTQ activism. These bars were concentrated in cities like New York, San Francisco, and Chicago, becoming vibrant hubs for social bonding and political discourse. A breakthrough came in 1976 when four women in their 20s opened Sahara in New York City. Unlike mafia controlled bars, and we'll talk about that in a moment, Sahara was elegantly appointed with floor plants and peacock chairs. These were spaces so much more about love and generosity. Bars like Shirley's in Norfolk, Virginia, which operated from the late 1970s to the late 1980s, were hubs for activities for queer women. They provided first time lesbian bar experiences, hosted fundraisers for queer organizations, and sponsored women's sports teams like the Pacesetters. Sorry, one sec. But these spaces were not without their tensions. While they were sites of refuge, validation, community, and resistance, they could also be sites for intense isolation. They were often exclusionary based on race and class. And there was the ever present threat of police raids and mafia control. It used to be illegal in many states to serve alcohol to homosexuals, so bars needed to buy protection from the mob or face getting their liquor license revoked if they were raided by the cops. These bars had high cover charges, overpriced drinks, and often lacked fire exits. Now, here's the stark reality. By 2020, the Lesbian Bar Project counted only about 16 bars remaining. While those recent counts have found around 30 to 36, this still represents a loss of over 80% in a single generation. Um, Whoops, sorry. So, why did this happen? There are several factors. First, gentrification and rising rents, increasing commercial real estate prices, especially in historically queer neighborhoods like Greenwich Village and the East Village, have priced out the communities that kept these bars afloat. Gentrification is a long repeated topic in the loss of spaces for LGBTQ plus folks. Second, the gender wealth gap. Women historically face difficulty securing loans, credit cards, and liquor licenses without male signatures. Women earn only 87 cents for every dollar earned by the typical worker, and non binary and trans women earn even less. Lesbians have never occupied or held public space in the same way that gay men did. A 1980s informal survey found two-thirds of patrons at lesbian bars were not there to drink, correlating to an early decline in profitability. Third, the rise of internet dating and cultural assimilation. Dating apps have supplanted in person socializing. Um, Increased mainstream acceptance has led some to feel separatist spaces are less necessary. Um, Many bars now label themselves LGBTQ plus rather than specifically lesbian, and younger generations embrace more fluid gender and sexuality labels, reducing demand for exclusive spaces. So, what was lost when these bars disappeared? Erica Rose of the Lesbian Bar Project put it this way: it's a loss of history, it's a loss of intergenerational dialogue, it's a loss of queer friendship. Lesbian bars were a place where queer women could feel unapologetically themselves, surrounded by a like minded community, a space free of the male gaze and heteronormative expectations. They were organizing hubs that supported organizations like the Columbus AIDS Task Force, Choices, and women's sports teams. In October 2024, Denver lost its last dedicated lesbian bar, Blush and Blue. The closure marked the end of an era and left many to ask, are we losing more than just real estate? Are we losing the history and future of lesbian spaces? But there is also hope. The Lesbian Bar Project, started by Erica Rose and Elena Street in 2020, has raised over 117,000 to support remaining bars. New bars have opened in Los Angeles, the Ruby Fruit, San Francisco, Scarlet Fox, Boston, Atlanta, Phoenix, and Nashville. Chapstick is in Nashville. Many of these new spaces emphasize age, racial, and especially gender diversity, and explicitly welcome trans and non binary people. The Ruby Fruits co owners call it a Sapphic establishment to move away from necessarily ascribing any kind of gender to what we were doing while preserving the culture and intention behind the lesbian community. Excuse me. The revival can be particularly attributed to pent up demand from the pandemic. Being forced indoors and being forced to not have nightlife made communities say no to isolation. The Addresses Project, created by artist Gwen Shockey, is an interactive historical map of lesbian hotspots in New York. It interviews community elders to document these spaces and preserve their legacy. So while the decline is real and devastating, this is a fragile revival. There is a fragile revival underway, one that is more inclusive, more intentional, and perhaps better equipped to survive. So online spaces, what they've made possible. So this brings us to today, to the digital frontier. We've talked about physical spaces, the bars, the meeting rooms, and the publications that built early Sapphic community. Now we turn to the digital frontier, where the rules of community are being rewritten in real time. Online spaces like Tumblr and TikTok have done something remarkable. They've expanded who can imagine themselves as Sapphic, but they've also created new forms of gatekeeping that echo and in some ways intensify the exclusions of the past. Let's start with the expansion. Social media, particularly TikTok, has become a vital space for queer identity formation. During the COVID-19 pandemic, when physical community spaces disappeared, queer women and non binary people turned to TikTok to discuss their journeys of queer revelation and find commonality with others. Platforms like Tumblr are often credited for their queer representation because they allow users to cultivate a personal style and experiment with identity. Social media provides textual and visual tools as identity markers to articulate a queer public identity. The internet has allowed people to try on different personae and see how others react in real time. For many young people, this has been a gateway to self-discovery and community. Hashtags like LGBT, queer, and Sapphic make videos searchable and allow for the grouping of queer content and individuals. If a user engages with videos tagged gay, the algorithm will continue recommending similar content, effectively solidifying queerness as a place on the platform. The algorithmic person- personalization has created what scholars call an algorithmized self identity formed through interaction with the algorithm. But there's a shadow side to this digital community building. Um, we all know shadow banning and such. So TikTok's algorithm doesn't just connect people, it also surveils and suppresses. In 2019 and 2020, investigative journalists revealed that TikTok has been shadow banning socially marginalized groups, including BIPOC people with disabilities and the LGBTQ plus community. Internal documents showed that moderators were instructed to shadow ban these groups so they wouldn't decrease the short term new user retention rate. The algorithm learns and perpetuates social marginalization. Slide 38. Okay. Lesbian content creators now engage in what researchers call algorithmic bargaining, altering their speech and behavior to avoid censorship and achieve algorithmic visibility. Some users use the morph lesbian, or like with the dollar sign and the bean, to bypass filters. This is a new form of closet, the digital closet. This brings us to gatekeeping and identity policing. Michael Warner, a prominent queer theorist, described a divide within queer communities between what he calls the stigmaphiles and the stigmaphobes. The stigmaphiles embrace their outer status and sexual radicalism. The stigmaphobes seek conformity and respectability. Warner warned that because some such tension is structural to the politics of stigmatized groups, we might think that it will just never go away. This divide is alive and well on TikTok. We see it in purity politics, the policing of who is queer enough, who counts, who belongs. This takes the form of call out campaigns, malicious reporting, and deplatforming of content that is considered problematic. Takes the form. Users make certain content as users mark certain content as dirty or polluting the platform, and then make efforts to organize the online environment to conform to their idea of purity. As feminist scholar Sarah Ahmed notes, queerness is positioned as veering off the straight line, and normative subjects feel the need to police and correct. This is what one researcher calls a straightening device, an action that brings queer subjects back online, either through misrepresentation or correction of their slantwise nature. Nowhere is this gatekeeping more palpable than in the treatment of bisexual and pansexual women, and this is where we must confront an uncomfortable history. During the 1970s and 80s, gay liberation and lesbian feminism played a significant role in creating and reinforcing a binary of gay and straight. Bisexuality was seen as a threat to the binary. As one scholar documents, many lesbians considered bisexuality merely a transitional sexuality on the road to true lesbianism. Sharon Dale Stone, a lesbian woman, recalled her own bias. I could not approve of women who hung around lesbians for years on end and still insisted on saying they were bisexual. It didn't occur to me that bisexuality was really possible, could be experienced as anything other than a stage on the road to true lesbianism. The distrust ran deeper than just suspicion of transition. Many lesbians assumed bisexual women would ultimately choose men because heterosexuality offered privilege and safety. Bisexual women were seen as wanting to take all the goodies that lesbians had to offer, but unwilling to pay the price of giving up heterosexual privilege. Some lesbians viewed bisexual women as the enemy. The exclusion was a way to protect the boundaries of the lesbian community. The result was systematic bisexual erasure, a tendency to ignore, remove, falsify, or re explain evidence of bisexuality in history, academia, and media. The erasure meant that bisexual women faced social censure from both heterosexual society and lesbian community. One poet, I'm going to butcher this, Dagenia, expressed this isolation powerfully. I have been bashed for loving women and isolated for loving men. This history isn't just in the past, it lives on in digital spaces today. As one writer put it, despite my best efforts, TikTok keeps showing me videos of lesbians who don't like me very much because I'm bisexual. These videos are filled with modern buzzwords like comfet, compulsory heterosexuality, emotional labor, and unlearning patriarchy to justify biphobic arguments. One TikTok user said she dates bisexual women to give them reality checks about what it's like to date women. And the comments were supportive. This rhetoric mirrors what it's like to date. This rhetoric mirrors misogynistic language used to justify emotional abuse, and it's deeply concerning given that bi women experience much higher rates of intimate partner violence than straight or gay women. However, and this is important, we are also seeing a slow shift. The term Sapphic has been reclaimed as a broader, more inclusive umbrella, and many younger queer people are actively pushing back against gatekeeping. Bisexual activists have been speaking out since the 1980s, writing poetry, organizing, and demanding inclusion. New student organizations for Sapphics define membership broadly, welcoming not just lesbians, but also transgender, bisexual, and pansexual students. The need for these spaces reflects a desire to celebrate Sapphic identity while rejecting the exclusion that has historically fractured the community. What we're seeing on social media is a battle over the soul of Sapphic community. Will we replicate the exclusions of the past, or will we build something more expansive and inclusive? The algorithm isn't neutral, it learns from us, and it amplifies our worst impulses if we let it. But if it reflects our choices, we can choose to create spaces that honor the full spectrum of Sapphic identity: lesbian, bisexual, pansexual, queer, and everyone in between. That's the promise of this digital frontier, and it's the work that remains before us. End scene.
Thank you. Please breathe. Catch your breaths. Thank you. I was like sitting here, I'm like, wow, it's really nice to just sit here and breathe for a bit. I feel kind of bad that you I'm like, okay. Anyways, sorry. Anyways.
I wrote a whole script because I was like, I'm gonna forget everything the second we're here.
No, you're good. You're good. I get it. It's good. It's been really good. Not necessarily something I wanted to put in symbols, but something that's kind of been resurfacing / always kind of has a resurgence, I feel like, every now and then, about carabiners and what it means with lesbians. Personally, I have my own, but I don't wear it very often. Like, I don't really do carabiner code, but sometimes if I do go somewhere and I knew that I wouldn't mind being perceived that way, sometimes I'll do it, but I don't know, it's not for everybody. It's not a big thing. Like, just because you see it doesn't mean everyone's doing it. So, but it's been something that's been going on since women entered into the workforce. Of course, first it came out of just like it was convenient and people needed to keep their keys, especially when they were working. But it especially just started growing when women were having to be pushed into the workforce. Lesbians were already the ones who were usually working before women with wives or straight women because they had to breadwinner from themselves. Uh, they didn't have access to traditional income, usually had to be in different economic situations than women who had access to being straight or whatever. Not access to being straight, but it is kind of like access when it was back then in a way, like especially if you don't want to conform or whatever or push it down. But masc and butch women primarily entered into blue-collar workforce because they were turned away from jobs that were considered more feminine or did not embrace, you know, our masc and butch lesbians as much. But they didn't fit in with the normal jobs that were given to women at the time, especially when women were being pushed out, secretaries, teachers, nurses, etc. Also, what's wrong with someone wanting to learn how to use a hammer or learn how to work with tools? It doesn't matter. And some of them were just intrigued with the skills and wanted to have the opportunity to stretch the boundaries of gender presentation, meaning they could wear jeans to work, they can wear blues to work. I think is what they're called when you have like or coveralls and stuff like that. Things that can feel more affirming, especially for masc and butch lesbians. But carabiner code actually more so came out of kink culture at the time. It grew out of that. In kink culture and gay cruising, they would clip the carabiner to a certain side to signify their sexual preference. But also, I would say not everyone's really doing this anymore. If you see someone with a carabiner, I wouldn't assume that they're a top or a bottom. I would just maybe consider that they're a lesbian or a sapphic rather than being what their preference is on that. But it's definitely something that we still do today. Speaking of, wait, which one just brought this into my brain? Carabiners and butch women. I was thinking about dyke. We were talking about that earlier. This is one of those sections where some of y'all might not like this term. And that's okay. That's fair. It's definitely been used negatively against, especially Black lesbians, but all lesbians at some point. It grew during the Harlem Renaissance, especially around the time where like Ma Rainey was singing really with the blues and jazz era. There was a lot of hate crimes going on against Black lesbian women, especially in that time. And the term that was usually used was bull dyke, and it was specifically towards masculine presenting Black women or lesbians. It was eventually shortened to dyke in the 50s and used more heavily by straight communities or just bigots in general against lesbian women as a whole. It's also really important. I've seen a lot of people talking about how we're reclaiming dyke, but reclaiming dyke is not a new thing. That's been a goal since people first started using it against lesbians. I mean, I think that's a very like lesbian thing to do, is to be like, actually no, I'm not gonna let you have that power over me, or whichever way, or kind of reclaiming things is, I think, very, I don't know, it's being more embraced recently. But lesbians were trying to take that back. Same with Lavender Menace. I mean, we can even see they embrace being a lavender herring or being a lavender menace. So same with here. It's not new to reclaim dyke. There are dyke marches. There were people who like just used that term to describe themselves as well. The sentiment is similar to reclaiming slurs like queer, but it's always been a radical term and embraced in rejection of violence and gender stereotypes against mass-presenting lesbians, politically active lesbians, non-binary sapphics. But yeah. Speaking of the dyke marches, those were started by lesbian avengers. They were, in their continuing tradition, they've gone international, but they traditionally focus on uniting and empowering not only lesbians, but bringing attention to social issues like immigration, civil rights, disabled rights, access to legal protection, and connecting people with basic needs and resources after the march is finished. Also coupled with the presence of Dyke TV, which was running for 12 years on New York television. They did eventually expand that / create physical media so that people who were not in New York could access it, but it was definitely more centralized to New York. But you know, they wore that term with pride as well. So it definitely became even more denoted with pride, especially by politically active lesbians, since Dyke TV was really focused on um, sharing resources, footage from various marches, talking about historical lesbians, talking about modern lesbians, bringing attention to current causes, especially like just like meetings in New York. They would just like advertise where you could go to hang out, or like for specific groups, like for Caribbean LGBTQ, they would have like, okay, here's this one space that we can meet on this day. So it was very much like the last couple, if you watch an episode, which again is linked in the 101, the last like several minutes of the episodes were usually with connecting people outwards. But they also did interviews with lesbians from different backgrounds, which I think is amazing. That's like a majority of what is archived from them, which is, I mean, that's what I love to see. So but yeah, I think it's just important, especially maybe for like our baby gays or our newer Sapphics. I mean, not everyone grows up knowing or with the access to this information, so don't always read it as a bad thing. A lot of times lesbians are reclaiming this term and proudly using it. I mean, I use this term for myself sometimes, but that's just because I got called it for so long too. So I was like, I mean, I am.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I will mainly when I had really short hair. But
Oh shit.
yeah, I don't know if that's just a thing over here, but I used to get called it, and I don't know, it didn't really, I mean, it bugged me because they were trying to be mean, but like I didn't really care that like they like I just didn't, I don't know, it was just like it didn't really bug me that much, but it was just more like, why are you bothered enough to say something? Like, why do you care? But I think that's just good information to know, and it's kind of nice. Oh yeah, I forgot. That's like the end of the history portion. Okay. Thank y'all for being here. Sorry. Thank you for the waiting through the break. We are going to be moving into more of our recent topics and representations conversation, and we also be talking a bit about like growing up Sapphic as well. But thank y'all for being here. Thank you again, Prop, for putting the 101 in there. We have all of our sources and further things that you guys can look into there. I think one of the biggest things that we've heard, or at least that I remember hearing about and kind of stirring up big arguments between lesbians and bi and pansexual communities was just JoJo Siwa in general. But in 2022, when JoJo Siwa was first still kind of coming out and figuring out who they, okay, I don't know what happened with this, I messed it up, but she or they, I don't remember anymore, they said that the word lesbian felt gross, kind of like how it feels to say moist, like it felt gross and wrong and icky to say and stuff like that. Obviously she ended up apologizing for this, but we're not here to judge her, we're not here to say that that's something, we're not here to do that. I'm curious, like, especially between me and Daira, like, was that ever something we felt like we dealt with? Like, is that kind of like internalized homophobia, you feel like?
I think part of it definitely has to be some form of internalized homophobia. I think growing up in a space in the United States where heterosexual normativity is so prominent, we can't like avoid being indoctrinated into like homophobia like subconsciously. Just like we kind of have to unlearn the mask and unlearn the ableism sometimes. But I can like the word moist, I'm so sorry. Like it like the reason we don't like it is just because of its sound, right? I feel like that's not what JoJo was saying.
Mm,
I don't think it's the sound for them. I think it specifically has to do with what it represents in a
yeah.
way. So I
Yeah, no,
don't
I think that's
know.
true. Yeah, I think especially later on when, like, she definitely had some resentment towards the lesbian community after, like, this kind of situation, especially saying like fuck the L, fuck the lesbians, I'm going to Q. Totally cool to change
Mhm.
and go to being queer, but she definitely felt attacked by the lesbian community. But I think a lot of it, it's like, if you can admit that you felt afraid of feeling queer, like she said, I have always been afraid of feeling queer, but like I have always said lesbian, but I feel so queer. If you are afraid of feeling queer, how is that any different than feeling lesbian? And like what is the like connotation? Like obviously a lot of the connotation that we've been talking about in the history that Daira was getting into earlier, it's like they have like very real effects on how even queer women view lesbians, I feel like. Um and how, yeah. Okay. And I don't know, I think a lot of people are getting on her for changing her mind. And I think, as a society, we kind of are like, as a queer community, we've all kind of, we at least, it's in our script to say sexuality is fluid. Like it comes out when we're doing that. But like the reaction to someone publicly changing it, like, have you ever felt like changing your term would be difficult or like people would give you a hard time for that? Or like, especially growing up and like in JoJo's time, being like young,
Um,
post high school.
for me personally, like you're saying, like me right now, right?
Or whatever,
Um,
growing up either.
or what? I think growing up, definitely people would have given me crap for it and been like, "Oh, you're just confused or you're just going through a phase or something." And that's definitely not what I wanted to be viewed as. I didn't want to be viewed as some, I'm just like playing around with stuff because I was not playing around. I was truly trying to figure out who I was. And I think that especially when I was in high school, I felt like I had to choose sides, like either to be completely, straight or to be with a woman when I was um definitely with all genders of all types. So I was very queer in high school, but um yeah, I think me like switching partners of any gender was very confusing for people, and they very much didn't like that I wasn't adhering to a binary. So a lot of people just said I was like faking, or again that I was just confused, and that I was just playing around with people's feelings, by not sticking to one person. And then like my partners would be like, very insecure that like I didn't actually want them. I wanted the other sex or the other gender or whatever. And it was like a big thing. So I don't think it was easy then. And I don't, maybe it'd be a bit easier now, but I still feel the judgment.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's good. Like, I think I definitely did too, and I wanted to get that insight from you on this. And I mean, people are also agreeing, and I feel like that's something that I don't know why we like the public forgot this, or like if that's just something that like in our little niche little corner right now that we have, like people understand that. But I think it's really weird. It's definitely gonna make like young queer people, especially like who are going through like people saying that you're confusing for not picking, or like you're just using people. It's like, okay, then if we're seeing people say that about JoJo Siwa while she's still figuring out what her preferences are and what she
Yeah.
goes with, it's kind of like I'm almost like, damn, would this have like affected, like how would this have affected me if I was like middle school, high school, and I was watching this go down? Like, I think it's I guess my main thing with JoJo Siwa is kind of like we can sometimes, I think as you get more established in the community, you feel more established with your identity, you can start to kind of feel distanced from people at the start, and kind of like either you feel shame for the process that you went through in figuring out who you were, or people made you feel bad for that. And I don't know when it changes from being like sympathetic and like being in that same boat to being like that's not okay. And it definitely comes from like what we've heard from other people, but I just think it's very interesting and something that like general public, we all should be really keeping in mind when we're reacting to, especially young queers figuring out where they fall and what they feel like. Um, we might have already figured it out, and just because we have doesn't mean that like they have. But especially for me, I had feelings that I had to work through when I was watching this go down, because it's like I do feel a lot of sympathy for Kate, you know, watching the stuff that happened, but also it's like I'm reflecting on my own, you know, internalized, you know, biphobia perhaps, or which I've been working through. I don't really have that, I would say, but like thinking like, oh my god, I can't believe she switched on TV in front of everybody. Like, okay, like it doesn't really
Yeah.
matter. Like
Mhm.
people do that. It's
Yeah,
live
yeah.
reality TV, of course. Like I I think there's a lot of things that we forget that we also had to go through. Not to say anything that's right. I think that saying fuck the L is what really irritates me the most.
Right. Yes. You don't have to dismiss the other people in the alphabet.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think especially if like I think oh, you know what? With context of like a non-binary person deciding no, I actually am trans, we wouldn't be like it would be weird if they said like fuck being non-binary, fuck the non-binaries. It would be weird.
Right. Right, 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 right.
Yeah.
You have
Um
to put this in context, and that's exactly.
I think we definitely there's just a lot of normalized hate, I guess, against lesbians. Which I feel like also straight people were giving a lot of their opinion on this, which was interesting enough, but I definitely feel
Yeah.
like that conversation should have been more open to bi people and pansexuals or even people who had a later in life realizing where they stood.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Um Something else here, again, this is kind of tying into representation. This is something that's been happening a lot more, and I can't really pin down why, but a steady growing trend with men, either gay relationships, they are gay men, like from Heated Rivalry, or fanships where they're technically not together, but they're if they were together, they would be a gay relationship, or they'd be gay men. But the trend is with calling those types of men in those relationships masked lesbians, or being referred to with lesbian terminology. Um, they've even been submitted to some rankings of like lesbian relationships, representation of lesbian relationships as well, which gets a lot of. It is mostly straight women calling them. Yeah, I definitely see that as well.
That part.
Yeah. I
That part.
think especially as well with gay men, it's already the audience for that is already the straight women usually, and then the queer community second, and same with lesbian media. I would say it's probably more like lesbians and then male demographic second, because like sometimes they don't want to seek it out, but if it's like Megan Fox, then they will, you know what I mean? But it's kind of either way. But so the interesting thing with this is that like I personally was very irritated when I first saw this, but looking into it more and looking into kind of people's reasonings for this, people are saying that these are kind of filling a gap for mask relationships or butch relationships, which I can see. Like after I think about it that way, I'm like I can see where you're conflating that, but it would be not the material and calling them in. I could see where we're finding a need for mask representation, but why can't we let like gay men just be gay? um
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about this, I'm gonna be honest. I don't feel like, terminology that like it's not like I'm trying to gatekeep terminology, but I also want to use it in the right like context for the right people, and I feel like putting it on gay men when you can call them gay men,
mhm.
I don't know.
And I personally, for me, I'm like, is it coming from thinking of gay men naturally as like feminine, or like
Right.
being you know, I don't know, especially with like men like Hannibal. I haven't even watched the full series of Hannibal, but I'm like, I'm like, these are like masculine like men strong in their identity of being men. It's like, okay, so is it just the idea that they're gay that makes you think that they're that? And I think it's really interesting, especially with lesbian. I mean, with straight women watching gay men, they tend to be okay with calling them gay usually, but now it's like also kind of starting to blur the lines. But yeah, I mean, I think we can use terms like mask and femme. I know people like there's different like letting bisexual or pansexual people use that is definitely something to be considered. And separately, wanting more mask. I would love to see more mask and mask representation. I think that'd be really sweet. Um,
Hmm.
but I don't know. I think it's something to be in keep in mind, like especially when it's not coming from people in the part of the community. It's very icky. Yeah, and I mean, I personally, this is something I'd love to hear. I mean, if we have any gay men here right now who would like to give their opinion on this, or queer men, I would love to hear what you say about this as well. I think it's a very interesting thing, and some people, I think it's saying that it's filling a gap is not necessarily saying that it's a good thing, but it's saying that there's a need for something.
Right, and they need to fill that with
Mhm.
things that are not ours.
Which,
Anyways.
yeah, no, I mean, I get that, especially, thinking of that, the queer community and, I mean, fan culture filled in a lot of stuff normally. So when we had a need for that, even in like seeing straight presenting relationships or seeing, friendships, reading into having to read between the lines is, very much in the way filling that gap as well to some audiences. So I can kind of see where it's like, I don't have the type of representation I need, so I'm just going to like pretend this is who I need it to be. So
What I need. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
And I will say the people who I was seeing commenting about it being mask representation or, talking about that in more in depth were mask/butch lesbians who were really talking about how it felt weird. But that's when I kind of come in to think of what's the difference between a mask lesbian and a gay man, and is it just femininity or the assumption of femininity? So um just like definitely just something to be aware of. I think for me, the thing that is a hard line is calling gay men lesbians. It feels kind of like
Lesbians, yeah.
let them have their let them have their content. But
Right, and not only that, but let's not say that they're inherently feminine just because they're
mhm,
gay, or the other way around where lesbians would be like, or some subsection of lesbians be like inherently masculine,
yeah,
like I don't know.
yeah, exactly. I think that's true. I mean, and that is something we also talk about later. And speaking about queer baiting is, a term used with like regular people. I'm not talking about regular people, I'm talking about characters specifically. So um no celebrities. Like the character is just saying this. I'm not talking about anybody who did this publicly. Um my main question is why do you think so many storylines um are about situations with a friend or complex feelings about having situations with a friend, even if they aren't like explored fully?
You know, I'm formulating.
You're good, you're good.
I'm formulating
And for those of you,
because this is bringing up a lot.
yeah, these are all kind of prime examples of women who have either had very borderline so close like they just don't kiss on the lips type things, or women that have just been kind of felt like women have watched and they're like, okay, this feels like a lesbian, but like it's more reading between the lines. So some of these are reading between the lines, some of these are them dropping hints, and that's what they consider is enough for us. So just for context for everyone. But
I think that these definitely play into stereotypes, and they actually piss me off every single time I spot them. Because like, why can't we just be friends? Like, why do we have to cross this like, also, why does nobody understand um the notion of platonic intimacy? You can have, like, I can hold your hand and I don't want to fuck you or be in a relationship with you. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like, I just like to hold your hand because that's like a form of like care, and and like intimacy, you know? Like I don't think that's fucking weird. I I also believe in platonic kissing, but you know, that's a whole other conversation, but whatever.
I think you're right though on a certain thing where it's like, why it's like let them be friends or let them like I think it's like either or. Personally, if I'm thinking like, well, what bugs me about it, if I'm gonna say what bugs me about it, is that it feels like it's only a minute or like an episode and like it's like a blip. Like we have 4 GIFs that we can reference from the show of when they were gay. You know what I mean? Or like there's these like split moments where we're not necessarily like it doesn't get to be a part of their character. And I wouldn't even say this is necessarily in the characters that I have here, but even just in other shows I've watched where they'll tap into the idea that these friends might be into each other and then they'll just like never address it again and it's like oh she's just gonna go be with a guy now or like it's actually like they don't really care about it or it wasn't like that. So I think for me it's like
Right.
if you're gonna have a person fall for their best friend, make it they fall for their best friend all the way.
Right.
Make it
Because
overt.
then you're just it's like the autistic coded character where like why can't you just say
Yeah.
they're autistic? Like why can't we just okay, let's start normalizing it. Like why is this such a secret? Like why do I have to infer?
Yeah. Why do I have to yeah, it really is. I think especially with yeah. Especially with like femme presenting women, I feel like they get a very high femme presenting. It's like it gets very easy um to just kind of write off. And I feel like for me, one thing I also wanted to mention, if we're going from a positive or like um maybe not a positive, but like a neutral or a mindful stance, um I think sapphic friendships or being in a friendship with a straight girl or a bi girl or whatever, or questioning girl, who knows. That is a very formative experience and it can be very interesting. And I think it can be explored, it could be explored really well, especially because, I mean, a lot of modern lesbians feel like creeps or they don't really, like, it's hard to navigate um, that kind of stuff, especially when you're younger and maybe like you don't have the emotional skills to really elaborate on what you're feeling and stuff like that. I feel like I can see where it's tuning into those things of like riding the line and not knowing if they're okay with you and not knowing if like not wanting to break the friendship type thing. But I think that's more of where I see similarities rather than I don't think that's why they're writing them. But I do think that like I do think that's maybe something that whatever these writers have heard is like, oh, I don't know. Or like I hear a lot about these homoerotic or homo intense friendships that are just friendships. I feel like those are getting talked about a lot. So in media it's gonna be like, well, let's just have like these things that allude to it so we can kind of get the interest of this one crowd, but we can still maintain the straight community's, peace with the medium.
Right. And I also think that this is marketed towards the male gaze.
Oh yeah.
And that's what pisses me off more. Like
Yeah,
it's not just normalizing, like say, like, you know, platonic intimacy, which it could be argued. I think it was just put in there for the male gaze to entice them, but also like not too much where we're gonna like ostracize like the straight community, you
yeah.
know?
I feel like especially Buffy and Faith, watching them, I'm like, I can tell like that's like they're just riding the line and I'm like, God, and I hate watching something and I'm like, oh guys probably love this. And it's like I wanna love it just because it's women. Or just because it's
Right. But
sapphic.
I know why it was written in, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. It's like, okay, fuck. I don't wanna have that lens to filter through. I think that's something we're seeing a lot. I mean, even now, it just keeps happening. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, I think you're right about it playing into those as well. People get pissed when you do that stuff. Why did they have to say? Yeah, it's like people are always the one way or the other.
Mhm.
Um, Homoerotic women to women as opposed to homoerotic. Oh, if it was man to man, they'd be shitting their pants and calling the police and, taking it on Fox
No,
News the
literally.
next day. Like,
I need to speak to your manager.
yeah. Best for erasure, I want to also say I didn't really get to dive into this as much as I wanted to. That's something that's been happening to writers Emily Dickinson, Ann Lister, several other women, Gabriella Mistral, Sappho. That's very common as well. So I think that's where a lot of any lesbian, if for those of you who are not identifying under this umbrella, I think that's where a lot of the frustration comes from, as well as like knowing that like they're always just say we were roommates, or they're always just gonna say we were friends. And I think that's like it's very valid if someone is upset about that, and I just want to kind of get that across. But speaking of other tropes in media, the mean lesbian trope, I'm not gonna lie, I don't hate this one. I don't hate it. I kind of like it. I don't really care. Is that wrong of me to say?
Jade, this is your king. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's preference maybe. But no, I don't know. I don't really hate these characters, but obviously there is a mean lesbian trope. Santana Lopez is probably she was the epitome of every article I was looking in on about this, but I think Janice from Mean Girls is another example, although in the original she doesn't get to be lesbian at the end of the film, but definitely the mean lesbian with like very aggressive ideas about other people and very outspoken. But obviously, like, do you think this comes from misogyny, or do you think it comes more from like our history as a culture of lesbians?
I think it definitely comes from our history, like, the history that I just went over where, lesbians were just painted as a threat.
Hmm.
And when, like, you're just gonna say, like, "Yeah, I'm a lesbian, and then I'm gonna be proudly one, and then now I have to put on this persona with, like, an with armor on because I'm gonna get hit from every side." That kinda, like, makes you into this caricature of being a mean person
Yeah,
when really you're just trying to put your foot down. And it's giving like when like black and brown women kind of like have to are being called like aggressive in some way.
exactly.
Um it's giving
Mhm.
and like it's not needed.
And it almost always, by the way, these lesbians are almost always women of color. They're never like it's usually rarely the white lesbian. That's the mean lesbian. It's usually the women of color who have like the harsh takes. Which honestly, yeah, sure, maybe that is based, but can we have some who are more like soft spoken, or maybe like because the mean lesbian trope can kind of get tied to characters of color. I'm finding rather than white ones,
Oh yeah.
and I
Yes,
think
for
that's
sure.
fucked up.
Yes.
But yeah, I think the politically active lesbian is the big thing that really comes from, or like just being outspoken. And I think that's something I've had since I was younger. And maybe I just knew that that's like what I'm supposed to be. But also, I think I learned that I needed to be like that for a lot of the situations I was in. Um, but yeah, like I think we know where it comes from, but even knowing where it comes from, I don't hate this one. I understand if people do dislike this one. I know there's a lot of sweetheart lesbians out there. Um and I have my moments, but like I think the mean lesbian trope it was it was something I needed, I think, to see just in general. Um, Even if they're considered mean, are they really mean, or are they just outspoken? Are they just calling out? Like Santana is rarely she's like 20% mean, 80% calling out misogyny or like other stuff on that level. So it's kind of like are they really mean? Or sorry, go ahead.
No, no. I think I can definitely see your point where I think you specifically just touched upon like it kind of like helped you in some way to see this trope. But I think that people are also bad actors and will use this
Yeah.
trope against, like bad actors. I did not mean that pun. Or bad actors in a way where they will use this against like more, let's say like even like mask lesbians or sapphic people.
Mm.
And then it just becomes of like, why are you framing me in this way? Where I can also see that like for you it might have like helped you be more like put your foot down a little bit more and advocate for yourself, or maybe like just like, just like being your own, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no. And I see, like, I wish that, like, no straight people watched the mean lesbian trope. Like, I wish it could just be, like, a thing that we have, like, where it's like, oh, wow, they get to, like, they, like, call out that this male character just said something super sexist and, like, no one else would say it. But it's like, of course, why is it the lesbian character who's the one calling these things out when it could be
Yeah.
anyone? But I don't know. That's definitely like one of the major tropes, but I think it's less upsetting to me in comparison to the next one, which is the crazier unhinged lesbian, which obviously comes from us being considered asocial, being women being put into institutions, etc. People acting out, or like the lesbian Avengers acting out, dyke
Being
marches, etc.
pathologized. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think these stories come from really valid places, but how do you feel about these? Like, do they always upset you, or do you feel like, or do you, like, find them intriguing? I'm kind of, like, hit or miss. I think the only thing that bugs me about these the most is that they come from, like, women's actual pain that was thrust upon them rather than, like, them being bad people or, like, anything like that. It's like, oh, women had to be institutionalized. As like in the case of Suzanne, it's like definitely much intersectionality with being neurodivergent, being black, and being lesbian. And it's kind of like, why does she have to be portrayed in a character of being so whichever way, being predatory or being whatever other way. But I think this is definitely given to a lot of sapphic or lesbian characters.
Yes. I personally hate this trope with a passion, only because of how strongly I feel about people being pathologized and being like incarcerated or hospitalized against their will. I think when you place somebody between a rock and a hard place, you're going to start seeing
The worst of
their
them.
survival instinct, and seeing what would be called the worst of them because it is pure survival at that point. Um, so especially with like Jennifer's body, like I think it's a great portrayal of like how the environment puts you or places you in a position that then makes like a certain part of you come out that like normally like you wouldn't be. It's like a great example of like a daffodil child, or sorry, an orchid child. I don't know if anybody knows what that means, but essentially in psychology, nurture versus nature type of thing. So there are daffodil children and, or sorry, dandelion children and orchid children, and essentially orchids are ones that are very much like their environment causes them to change very drastically, and they don't really survive, and unless it's like just the right environment, the right temperature with the right amount of water, whereas dandelions will grow in mud or something. um so I think that this is very much showing like how much you know nature affects someone, if that makes sense. And that's why I think it's so harmful, because you're just playing on someone's like um someone's suffering, I
Mm-hmm.
guess.
Yeah. I mean, all of these
I
characters
don't know if
are
that makes sense.
experiencing suffering and in positions that were not their own. I mean, not to spoil each of them, but an assassin in jail and a cryptid, a monster, all are out of their control. Well, for Villanelle, she's hired. It's like basically she was kind of groomed into this. So that's, for context, that's hers. Because saying assassin kind of just does sound like you're doing it for fun, but she's being groomed into this. It's become her job, it's become her life. And, you know, looking at each of these, you can kind of just see different, I mean, institutional or systematic impacts on each of them. Except for, I mean, Jennifer has it more when she's in school at the beginning, but even reflecting on how her reaction to being changed is like portrayed and like viewed by everyone around her as like being way out of proportion. It's like, is it though out of proportion if you're turned into something like this and you're having to eat people?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I don't think she's the problem. I don't know, but
Yeah, exactly. And I don't necessarily see how it could ever be affirming. Maybe it is affirming to somebody like put in that rock and hard place and seeing that like you can still um you know get out of it some way, but then to say that like the only way you can get out of it is by becoming this essentially like monster or crazy or unhinged person, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I with my context, I went through a bit of conversion and conversion therapy, and was also thrown into centers by certain placements who were very homophobic. And when I watched Suzanne in Orange is the New Black after when I turned into be an adult, and I hadn't seen it growing up, so I was like just seeing her, and it was really, really fucking hard. So like being someone who was in that rock and the hard place, I don't even think watching Suzanne made me feel better. I just felt, especially she's someone who, you know, gets adopted and doesn't have a secure, like, like there's just all these different situations at play for her that I can really understand. And there's just not really any resolution. All of the characters kind of treat her poorly. Eventually they kind of like accept her, but barely. And then, you know, she's very much portrayed throughout the series as like not having boundaries, not having all of these different things, but it's like, okay, she was also very much not in an environment to pick up on these things, and she was just not, she was thrown into jail. How was she supposed to, you know, function properly in an environment like this? So, I mean, I think it can be, you know, maybe I can find comfort in some of these and maybe small aspects of each character, but I think it still can be really difficult to watch. I think you're right. Like, it's not always.
I guess it could also be turned on its head and saying that they are thriving in the environments that they had to suffer through or placed in. You could say that in some type of affirming way, but at the same time, like, why I just don't understand this trope. But
yeah, it's hard. I think it's like I can see where our ancestors went through something like this, or what were under situations like this, but it also just kind of feels like, would we ever can we just ever have like a lesbian that's like just happy, or like just like a slice of life, or like the rom-coms that we see for straight people, rather than like some like, you know, huge think piece or very like aggressive trope heavy stuff like that. I feel like these are just things that I'm like, we could really let go of these as we move forward. But yeah, nothing negative on these characters. I just think that they're good examples of, especially women who are in environments that mirror those of the people we've been talking about. Yeah, thank you for talking with me about that too, especially. Yeah, so what kind of representation doesn't sit right with you? I mean, tragic stories, I think, is a really common one for a lot of people. I mean, I think in some ways I feel like if we were 20 years back, I would answer this question differently. Like, if we were in the 70s or the 80s, I would be a bit more like, there is tragedy in these stories. I get maybe why we're telling them, but I also think they weren't getting many positive stories back then anyways. So, I can see where there's a need for it and like in, in letting people know what it's like, but sometimes it's just a story that doesn't have historical, you know, power. It doesn't have that context that's supposed to be a message, and it just happens. I feel like
Right.
that bugs me a lot.
Um, I think that, um, how do I say this? Like, I think that these tragic stories or, whatever they may be that show suffering are definitely needed to teach, but then
Hmm.
bringing them into mainstream pop culture, sort of makes them gimmicky and like just perpetuates the stereotype and the trope. And that is not necessarily needed, but like if maybe if it was created for a certain purpose other than just
Hmm.
entertainment, then I guess it would have a place, but
I think
that
that's really good.
it
Yeah.
pisses me off otherwise.
I think that's good insight though. If it has like, I mean, if someone writes a story with a message and a reason for this to happen, I think it's different than, yeah, a mainstream piece. I also just like, I think you saying like it being in the public eye, if these are the movies that make the most money, that get the most recognition, that get the most viewers, including queer viewers, they're going to be seeing more tragic death, less hope in those relationships, and like kind of like, what am I?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
And
There's a lot there.
these are media that is also like it's media that's also not like it's just showing like a glimpse of it and then leaving the characters there instead of like following it through and being like this is ultimately why they face these things like this is like their environment did this to them instead of saying that this is inherently like their issue or um like their character trait. You know what I'm saying? Like
Or without
things
it
like
just being
gender
random.
and yeah.
Yeah, because I think like sometimes it's like I'd rather it have an explanation of like someone did this than like a random like, oh, they just, I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but like if someone just spontaneously like out of plot thing happens, or like something, it could have been avoided, like not intentional. I think that's what it kind of especially is like. I really have a question for the writers and what their intention was and why. Um, yeah, I hope we see a rise in more Sapphic filmmakers and writers, especially as we go forward. Just in general, I would love to see more like happy things, or just like in general more well thought out um pieces that aren't just based on, like I know you mentioned before, based on discovering identity rather than living in it. Um, Especially Sapphic stories that have that tragic ending. I feel like it's usually in one where it would feel very validating or affirming, or um like a really solid resolution if those characters were able to be happy together. And then that's, I feel like sometimes when they really try to take that away, it's like, okay, if there's really like a setup for these people to be safe and to be okay, like why would you take that away from an audience? And or the characters. I mean, if the characters could have been happy and safe.
Unless
Yeah.
unless that was your point was to make them these like horrible people that can only ever experience these things, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, on the what do we want to see more of, especially I put Francesca and Michaela in there. I haven't seen Bridgerton, but I really like the femme energy going on, and it being a historical piece. I feel like we don't get very many, like, I don't know, historical pieces that kind of like, or what are they called? Period pieces. That's what they're called. I think that's kind of interesting to see. I want more Sapphic main characters personally, rather than them being a side character. What about you?
I would definitely like to see more like butch for butch, mask for mask, like definitely femme for femme. Like those I don't see enough of because I feel like everything has to be under a binary and if it's not like femme in mask in some way, whether it's like gay men or lesbian women or sapphic, like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's getting old and we need more representation.
Yeah. Yeah, especially on Butch for Butch and Mask for Mask. I feel like I can't even think of like one example.
I can't think of one either, like at all. Like maybe like a cameo in my head in some like random music video, maybe.
Or like one
I think in
episode of
like
L Word or
passing.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And then the main character's thing is something for me. I feel like I was thinking about Buffy in general. Um we definitely have like a gay best friend trope, and that's for both lesbians and gays. I think regardless, we all want more storylines with primary ones. Also, I put Van and Ty here because I think it's nice to see characters out of just US city states situations. We don't really get a lot of like queer dystopian stuff, and I wouldn't say Yellow Jackets is dystopian, but you do get kind of like some more unique moments between them, and we also get to see them as adults, which I feel like you either see them as adults or as young, and I think having some both age is really cool. And I know Bottoms was created by lesbians, and it was focused on mainly being more comedy, which I think is kind of cool, moving away from being like a I don't know, like letting it kind of have a separate story while also having like a subplot about a relationship.
Yeah.
And having actual, people like Sapphics on that is immediately going to make it feel a lot more real. But yeah, I hope we get to see some more. I can't think of, I just pulled these characters mainly because of Femme for Femme, and then the adult and teen version, and then being by Sapphic writers and Sapphic main characters for Bottoms as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd like to see also like some disabled lesbian
Yes.
or something like that. That'd be really awesome.
Right. And not where they're like down in the dirt or something, or like, have some tragic storyline, or like, I don't know, but like, just disabled and okay.
Yeah, like not like a disability porn, just an
Yeah.
aspect. This is kind of I wouldn't say outdated, but this is definitely like a tired topic. Straight actors aren't getting casted as often to play lesbians, or at least it's more looked down upon, unless they're like A-list actors, like what's her name? Anne Hathaway. People don't care, I guess, if it's her. But how can this skew public perceptions of lesbians, or how lesbians should look or act? I mean, obviously we just kind of talked about what we want more of. The binary together, and maybe like I would say even just like skinny is one of the main ones that I see.
I think it also like, I think it skews the public perception by, like if people understand that like in real life they're not actually like lesbians, then it's just playing into this idea that, like in the end they really do like men, and they're just like cosplaying,
or like it's easy to just pretend.
Right, exactly. And all it is just pretending, because what's the baseline is being straight, which is not true.
Yeah, I mean, I think my main thing, I wouldn't want to talk to a straight actor very long, but I would tell them to maybe not take a role if their audience is a majority of male. If maybe is that just me?
If their audience is majority male,
like if Sydney Sweetie wanted to make a Sapphic film. I know that's the first. I'm sorry. Is that a bad example? I mean,
No. No, it's just I hate that bitch. Okay, anyway.
Yeah, me too. But someone the men all love.
Right. I would honestly, I would just say don't take the fucking role and
Mhm.
then look to your left and your right for the nearest BIPOC, actually lesbian Sapphic
Mhm.
person
Yeah.
that can take it. That can take it and then recommend them, especially if you have a lot of pull in Hollywood. You know what I'm saying? Like push for them to take or to be noticed for that role. Don't just be like, no, I'm not going to take it and then turn around because then the next A-lister is just going to be chosen. You know what
It's
I'm
a
saying?
really good point. Yeah. And there's like we have a lot of, upcoming queer younger actors, and I feel like that's a really good point. A lot of A-list actors right now are kind of at a point where they could really be directing their gigs
Hollywood.
towards other
Yeah.
people. But yeah, I agree. I would tell them not to. I would say do not.
It's not even like a matter of just like, okay, take the part, but then just keep this in mind and that in mind and post this on social media. And no, like, how about you just let it
Yeah.
be and just get a straight roll?
Yeah, Anne Hathaway has been like I swear every week she's like trying to kind of apologize or make up for the fact that she played a straight role by, raising money or donating money or every interview. And it's just like, I get it. Like, I am glad you're doing that, but like, you're doing this out of like guilt or like, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just also like weird. Like, okay, good, congrats. Like, thanks. Thank you, Anne Hathaway. I guess. What am I supposed to say? Like,
Like,
I
that
don't
wasn't
care.
enough money. Keep going.
Yeah, I don't
Like, I
care.
don't know what else to tell you.
Okay. It's like one day of filming for her or whatever, but yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's definitely something else too. Yeah. It doesn't matter what you're saying online or how you're really trying to make up for it. Especially with the rise and how many queer actors there are. Like, there's so many people they can choose from. If not, just find someone new that's like wanting to get a role. But there's so many actors out there right now that could.
Yeah.
Um. Oh yeah. This is kind of what we were talking about earlier, but with Black lesbians, often given the butch mask or stud label without actually considering if that aligns with the individual. Similar to the dyke slur, it's about racist beliefs about Black women being aggressive and masculine. If someone identifies as a stud or a mask, they would tell you or you would know. But if you find yourself assuming someone or a character identifies as masculine, that's something you should reflect and examine on, I think. Thaisa Turner is a really prime example of this. She is very much, I would say at least, femme soft or futch, but I repeatedly see people in the fan base calling her a stud or calling her a butch when she has just has said in the show, I'm not butch. You're more butch than me to Van. Like, you're the butch. Like, you're the handy one. I'm not. And so I think it's really odd to see people consistently giving her that role when she's very much like baby girl vibes the whole time. And so that's just something I wanted to kind of put out there as well, especially
And also, oh, sorry. Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Sorry. It just made me think about just because like she's in this very powerful role in politics is also I feel like why people place um this like stud on her because they want her so bad to just be masculine because of the powerful role that she has. Like she can't be soft and have power.
Hmm. And I mean, her original wife at the beginning, Simone, is actually femme as well, like pretty feminine. So I'm sure like audiences are
Mhm.
like, well, Ty has to be the butch because she went through all that
Right.
scary stuff, or we've seen that she can be however way or whatever. But I think that's definitely
Mhm.
something else. It goes hand in hand with, femme lesbians feeling like they're often looked over, considered to be straight. This is like way back when from the Lesbian Avengers when they were trying to kind of do a silly little haha of like, not all lesbians look how you think, and these are just like generic photos that they gathered to help. But Sally was also like the term kind of similar to like Mary for gay people or for gay men, um, where it's like a more, how would you describe that? It's like not like a beard term, but like a,
Say that again?
Sally's, like calling them Sally's, and then gay men had Marys. Like, what is that? What is that considered? Like a slang? I don't know what that's considered.
Mm. It's definitely a noun.
Yeah. Okay, well, something.
It's something.
It's something. Yeah. But yeah, so similar to that, if you ever see Sally's and Marys, those are usually referring Sally's to lesbians, Marys to gay men. Oh yeah. Speaking of perceptions, thinking that lesbians need to be or naturally are a certain way comes from concepts that we need to be certain patriarchal concepts that we need to be a certain way if we're assigned a certain gender, race, status, etc. When we resist a perceived norm, such as being queer in a straight-centric society, even though it's not off the straight and narrow or whatever people say, it's a perceived norm or something that we don't have as much representation to pull from. We often question how and who we should be, or like Daira said, we fall into the binaries, or people try to push us into the binaries. Our expectations of how women should be or inherently are has already created difficult situations for masc, butch, fat, and BIPOC Sapphics. In the early 2000s, there was a case with, I won't get into the details, it's pretty sad, but a lesbian who was somewhat masc. I wouldn't even say full butch, but you know, definitely moderately butch, was on trial regarding her girlfriend's daughter. Her behavior, emotionality, style, the way that she dressed, her voice, the way she talked, her ideals, and her identity were on trial with her the whole time. Jury members stated she was manly, didn't show enough emotion, and ultimately it affected the ruling against her and how the public perceived her and spoke about her in the news. Although she was later proved to be innocent, it all influenced that. So this is kind of like that key question of like, did you ever think you had to be a certain way to be a lesbian or sapphic? Or like, was there kind of like an idea of like, lesbians are butch or lesbians are like, what was kind of like, I'm not sure, because we're also in different parts of the US, so I feel like there's definitely got to be a difference in what people say.
I personally never felt like I had,
like young.
Like when I was younger, I don't think I felt like I had to be any certain way, but I felt like I had to be with someone that was a certain way. So like I had to be, because I was more femme, I had to be with somebody that was more masc presenting. Or like I never saw any femme representation, so I was just like, oh, that maybe doesn't exist. Or like, not that it doesn't exist, but like it's just like
it doesn't happen.
To be attracted to them, it just doesn't happen or something, you know, like but I never felt like I had to present in a certain way to be considered lesbian, sapphic, anything like that. And maybe that's because I am very femme presenting. So I didn't think like I had to change, because it was just something that was accepted already in the community as it's okay to be femme. And where it starts to become blurred and there's controversy is like when you are more like masc presenting, maybe, or something like that. I vaguely remember that in high school.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Especially, I think the saying that like there wasn't that representation there is huge as well. I mean, I didn't see a lot of femme lesbian representation, to be honest. So I didn't even think a lesbian could be femme. And to be fair, the first lesbian that I ever met was a cop. She was a butch cop, so that very much shaped my perspective of what lesbians were like. And I think a lot of the things that I heard about what lesbians were was that they're like tomboys and that they're like guyish and stuff. So that's a lot of what I heard growing up, but I also like just had a lot of different people giving me input from different placements. They all had different ideas, but I definitely thought I had to be kind of more masculine, or I don't know, I wouldn't even say I wouldn't even say that I felt like, you know, how I was talking about Santana. I wouldn't even say that I felt like I had to be outspoken. I think the first thing I ever thought was that I had to be somewhat less than what I am in femininity. But I think that also is probably tied in with my, you know, my gender identity and questioning, because I also questioned if I was trans at several times. So I think that kind of is more
Mhm.
where my thing came in. It's like if I was to be a lesbian, I would have to be this kind, which is not even true either. I mean, I'm really, it depends on the day, but if I said that to younger me, I would have not accepted that. I think I would have been like, no, like, I think people wouldn't, I don't think people would believe you. I think people would think that you're not the right way or whatever. But like, I thought I would have to be consistent, um, or that I would have
Yeah,
to,
that's a huge thing.
yeah,
I always felt like I had to be consistent throughout, and, like, the person that I was in that moment, or how I presented was how I had to present for the rest of my life, and I just had to choose, like, at the fork in the road, and then there was never going back,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. I mean, I don't even think I gave myself the chance to consider myself a femme lesbian growing up.
Mm,
Just like I kind of missed
okay.
out, I feel like. But like, I think I very much jumped quickly into that, and I think that definitely came from a lot of lesbian hate that I was hearing growing up, and like they're like this, and that's bad. And I was like, that's not bad though. I think that's awesome, or like I think that's admirable, or whatever.
I
Um,
think also it might have been, maybe I didn't hear as much, maybe because of where I grew up. It was always very, it's not that you had to shush about it, it just wasn't talked about. And it was very much a culture in my town where, like, you just don't talk about these things. And not because we can't, but just because it's like not, it's just a little bit more I guess taboo. So maybe
mhm.
like, you know, like it just didn't ever like come up. Um, I guess.
Yeah,
It's very much the upper class, like, we don't talk about these things type of like deal where I grew up.
yeah. We don't talk about the black sheep or whatever, about the family kind of feeling, but
Right. They're there,
yeah,
but like let's just not get
yeah.
into that, right?
I I think that's interesting. I didn't know if that was like a situation just for me or not, but it's definitely interesting. I feel like if I had seen more, or if I had had access to more representation at that age, I think I would have had a bit of a wider spectrum of what I perceive. Because now I'm like, I feel like after I learned that it wasn't like that, it's like my path opened up. Like it was like way more. I felt more free with like understanding that like it doesn't really matter on a day to day. I might have my general term, but sometimes I might vary from that. But I think I think it's I think I also was kind of in the time where everyone really wanted to it was a very, how do I explain this? You know how there's like a mask shortage right now? It's like when we had the mask too much back like 12 years ago. I feel like there was like way more white lesbians being presenting
Yeah.
masks, or it was like the default. Yeah. And I saw
Mhm.
that a lot, I think, when I was like a baby lesbian, so I think I was like, oh, like that's what I would be. But I think it's just definitely changes. Also, aren't they cute? I think they're so cute sitting here.
Yes.
I just am like, oh, I wish I could sit in this place when they're all talking about this. But yeah. Speaking of the terminology, I mean, we kind of went over this. Stone can apply to many sexualities. I want to get that out of there first. Um, yeah, like we talked a little bit earlier, lipstick lesbian was, it's a bit outdated. I don't really hear anyone use those anymore, but I remember hearing them growing up and like having my first girlfriend ask me that, and I was like, I don't fucking know. But the term came from lesbians who felt like they didn't fit the butch masculine stereotype. I would even say now, like, instead of lipstick, I would say this is like the person in the relationship that has nails, or like the person who wants whatever those kind of things are. Um, tomboyish middle ground, or like the Futch original was chapstick lesbian. Not necessarily in between. High femme and femme are people who prefer being feminine pretty much all the time. Butch and mask people for the opposite, prefer being masculine presenting. Stud is, like we said earlier, from black masculine lesbians. And same with STEM. It's kind of like their blurred term for like femme and butch, but they're for stud. But do not, obviously these are for just black people, and don't just assume someone's one of these. Let them tell you first, or use context clues, but you don't really need to ever tell someone what they are regardless, so. But like, be careful commenting on queer characters or queer people that you see online and just kind of jumping to those, because I see a lot of people doing that, and I don't know. That's not shade to anyone, I just think it's something we all need to kind of be mindful of.
Yes.
And yeah, it's about preference. If you prefer a label, think about what resonates with you. Definitely more so for the baby gays here, but it's never set in stone, and lesbian culture changes these terms with time. If you don't want a label, you don't need one. Would you say that you use a label, one of these? Besides Sapphic.
Me?
Yeah.
I think I would say I'm more high femme, for sure.
Yeah.
Or maybe femme, high femme. Maybe more femme.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. No, I like that.
In the femme.
Yeah. Oh, and stone butches are someone who's mass presenting and prefers giving rather than receiving pleasure. I forgot to say that, but yeah, I like knowing kind of where people not land on this. I mean, like, you don't have to put yourself on here if you're not, but I was just curious. I fall probably between Butch and Mask, but I also don't really pick one. I try not to. I'll go between either one, but like, you guys don't need one. I thought this was really interesting as well. In the Dyke TV segment that I was watching, they didn't give the names for the women who were talking, but it was from the Lesbians from Harlem segment. And they were talking about this shift between lesbians at Stonewall and lesbians around when this show was airing, so like 90s, 2000s. And the difference in all like the picking a terminology or picking our roles or picking who we are, and like kind of reflecting on why in the earlier days people were falling into that binary, like Daira was saying earlier, like feeling like you had to fall into that binary. But reflecting on like earlier times, rather than just having choice, we didn't have any roles, any role models. Roles were defined, people were playing into roles, and people dressed and acted out whatever role they found that they were suited for. So no one knew, and we don't have to know now is kind of the main thing of that. I think that was really, I don't know, it really stuck with me. I'm like, this person reflecting on, like, you know, history, Stonewall and prior is like, it really, there's nothing, you just figure out what you're suited for, what part of the community you fit in, what kind of role you want to play. And I think roles maybe aren't there as much, but
I think we're definitely hyper aware of, or we like to place a lot of like labels on things when they're not necessarily needed to understand what's happening. You know,
like, you just do them sometimes, or you just are.
Exactly.
Thank you for listening to us yap, but yeah, we're gonna have our found film, which again, this is the one that might bring up strong emotions if you're on your period like I am, or if you're just an emotional little baby. Not negatory, positive. Then like mentally prepare yourself, maybe get a plushie. But for context, we kind of talked about this earlier, in the term lesbian coming not only being for Sapphic identifying people or lesbian identifying people, but also from the people from the island, from the Greek island. The video that we were watching, it relates to the defending kind of the economic connection between lesbians and the actual area and island of Lesbos. In 2008, they tried to argue that that the use of lesbian in reference to gay women insulted their identity. It had become a gathering spot for women around the world for vacations and weddings, overall touristic activities like dining and shopping and engaging with the local economy, which does boost the local economy. Yes. Oh my god, I'm so glad you're here to see it again. I'm glad. Yeah, I'll take Sheila's word for it. But yeah, several residents and business owners testified during the trial that the word lesbian and Sappho's connection had brought recognition to the island and boosted its tourist trade and its economy. So, they ultimately lost the case, as we know. But, the video that we're watching is about 8 years before that, still kind of talking about, discrimination. Oh my god, what just happened? But 26 of them planned a trip to go to Lesbos because, oh my gosh, it's, you know, Sapphic's birthplace, let's go. Totally valid reason to want to go, and they were blocked by the mayor of, or the general mayor of Great Britain, and they had to struggle to get their flights to go through. They did get able to go through, but they documented their trip, including, like, the beforehand. So the beginning of the documentary or the film is kind of more so them getting there, and then the final half is them out on the island, hanging out, etc. I will say they don't have captions, and they have accents. So, live caption might struggle, but it will pick up on some of them. As much as it can. And, nothing, we don't really have any big questions, Daira, for after this. Just kind of like, how to make you feel, what you think. So nothing intense. Let me go ahead and get this pulled up.
Island of Lesbos. The island holds a secret few people know about. It is a paradise for lesbians. The earliest known lesbian, the poet Sappho, was born here. And so for the past 30 years, thousands of lesbians from all over Europe have been coming to this island for its history, tranquility, and for the other women who go there. Is shattered when a group of fun-loving British lesbians arrive in Lesbos looking for frolics, flirtation, and package holiday fun.
The only thing that's going to upset somebody.
And the girls spark off a series of events nobody could have anticipated.
Yeah.
Each year, hundreds of women from all over the world travel to Skala Eresos in Lesbos to enjoy what the town has to offer.
A good thing to have around.
Talking too much about females now, I'm getting
All about. We babe watch together, don't we, hon? No,
It's good to.
I am the owner of this bar and the hotel mascot. And the most of the clients in the summertime are the girls, about 80%.
I'm running after them every night, and I'm not lucky.
They don't bother us, we don't bother them. We are a very small society, but the girls, they are plenty. More than enough, but they are welcome.
It's not good for me, a playboy like me. Nothing for me in this town.
On the street, and just seeing so many dykes beautiful, and just think, oh yes, where else would you want to go? And
Sappho Sappho Travel is a women's travel agency on the island. It's run by Joanna and Joe. They're negotiating with London's premier lesbian venue, the Candy Bar, to run the first ever lesbian package holiday on Lesbos. In London, Rachel from the Candy Bar is getting on with the preparations. She plans to award sex toys as prizes for women at the end of the week. So her first stop is a women's-only sex shop run by her friend Kai.
Hello. Right.
Rachel has also made a flyer which advertises the week's events. This flyer has already been sent to Joe and Joanna in Lesbos to help them promote the holiday.
Oh my God, Lesbian Olympics. Oh no, what does that include?
Well, we can have Lilo races, a breaststroke race, I thought.
God.
Wet t-shirt competition.
Oh right, yeah. Wet pussy pool party.
It's a bit of a mouthful, wasn't it?
Jake Mad pussy.
No, but the pool party is going to be cool. So I was just like, I don't know, it just came to me in a wave of inspiration.
Yeah.
This wave of inspiration did not wash so well in Lesbos. The flyer was translated literally for the town mayor, for whom the idea of encouraging women's pussies to be wet seemed to cause the most offence.
If the literal translation of this is that pussy means money, which is fanny, which is, we all know what we're talking about. If a woman jumps in a swimming pool, it gets wet. How are you going to keep it dry?
Waterproof. We want women that they have waterproof pussies.
Something.
In London, Kai and Rachel choose the girls' prizes.
We'll just make goodie bags, you know, just little shush goodie bags or big shush goodie bags that's just like full of loads of toy playthings. And these are good. These are fantastic little lesbian, you know, two.
I had one of them when I was a kid.
It's kind of je ne sais quoi. I've got a bigger one. Oh, I can find a bigger one. You probably have got a bigger one, haven't you? No.
Rachel and Kai are unaware that in Greece, things are becoming far more serious. At the town hall, the mayor has decided...
She said he was very hostile, extremely hostile, aggressive.
He's threatening them with a fine and even imprisonment if the week's events go ahead.
The breast party. And we thought it was funny. The next thing we know, we're involved in this issue.
It's a very big newspaper. Yes, big newspaper. Many thousands of people work. And it's a big piece, eh?
Okay, thanks for bringing that to us.
See you soon.
I hope so.
I'll ask for information.
Okay, thank you. So, as you see, that was a piece of national news reporting. From what I understand from that article, the mayor has said he doesn't like the way this has been advertised and nobody has the right to do this, blah, blah, blah. There's now an argument about homosexual women. The newspaper is saying, why argue now? It's been going on for some time and we all know that. And they're putting the pressure onto Joanna's husband, Vasilis, to make a statement to say the excursion will not go ahead.
In London, Kim and Rachel from the Candy Bar are told that the week might be cancelled and call an emergency meeting for their crew.
Someone went to the police in Lesbos and said, orgy all week long, completely exaggerated it all, completely made the fucking mayor really paranoid. Basically, the mayor of the village has turned around and put injunctions on the nightclub, on Sappho Travel, on Aeolian. Since then, National Greek Press has got involved. It's on Greek telly tonight. And,
on their main channel.
Back in Lesbos, lesbian bar owners like Lena are anxious about the news reports of the week's cancellation.
Is this going to happen, what we read in the newspaper today? We read in a newspaper, in a Greek newspaper today, one article about Eresus. And it's written there inside that it's going to happen.
Very strong pressure has been put on us in the office from Vasilis to ask if we can cancel these events.
So what is the mayor's problem? What's he taking the mayor's problem seems to be lesbians in the village, full stop. This has got bigger and more more high profile than possibly even the
So
mayor.
they're just making a drama out of it because they don't like it.
It's a hot issue in terms of international media. There, it's a human rights issue.
No, I'm not fine. No, she's not fine. What do you mean, why? Come on, Dimitri. Joanna is in Aressos Town Hall with Vasilis now, and she will be back later, and I have no idea what time. Okay? Okay. Bye. So Joanna has signed a paper to say that she accepts that... Yeah? That she signed a paper to say she's not going ahead with the week. Okay. Okay. Bye. Who is acting as a mediator between the mayor and everybody. It sounds as though Joanna has signed a paper to stop the Women's Week going ahead. But I don't know. I have no idea until I speak to Joanna. And all I want at the moment is for Joanna to come and tell me what is going on.
Arrives back from her meeting with the mayor.
They're here. They're here now.
How can I explain to you in English?
Have you signed something?
Yes.
What have you signed?
I changed the flyer, nothing else. Yes. We do the Women's Week.
Right.
With events that we offer to the women.
Right.
It has nothing to do what the flyer, with the events that the flyer was mentioned.
I mean, we'll go ahead with Women's Week and we'll have Women's Week.
And so a compromise is reached. The package holiday week will go ahead, but the events will be given new names that will not affect...
It's Joe. We're not going to court tomorrow. No. So we have Women's Week. We have Women's Week.
Coming up in part 2, Shana expresses herself on Greek TV, Dirty Dancing, and it all kicks off at the Lesbian Olympics. At Lesbos Airport, the girls are greeted by a media pack eager to view the now famous London lesbians.
Welcome. We welcome.
Why did you choose Aressos?
All we are is a group of 26 women coming on holiday together to have a nice holiday.
The dance, I'm going to be entertaining the girls, and there's nothing bad in it. We keep our clothes on. You know what I mean? That's a totally legal word.
All we do is we just love women.
We love that. Okay, we like good, darling. Thank you very much for your interest. We're here.
Do the peace sign. What's the peace sign? That one. Oh, there's no waving at us. That was quite a welcoming to me.
On their arrival at the beach resort, Rachel, Kai and Kim visit the offices of Sappho Travel. They need to rename the week's events and track down Kai's missing suitcase full of sex toys.
Any news on my bag?
No.
Has anybody phoned about my bag?
Yeah, no, she has phoned about your breakfast. There you go. So while they're sitting there waiting for dinner, we could do Greek practicing.
What time did they say? I'm writing up the renewed schedule because we've been kind of thrown all over the place in terms of what we're going to be able to do, what we were planning to do prior to all the drama. We basically had to kind of redo the schedule, so I'm just typing out a kind of itinerary for all the girls, which are going to post under their door. So
proper package tour style, of course.
Fuck, it's just ridiculous. I'm so scared now, you know what I mean? It's just like, out of pure kind of, cheekiness and inventiveness, I thought. But now I'm like, I can't call a wet pussy pool party, a wet pussy pool party. What can I call it?
The lesbian holidaymakers find themselves booked into a very straight package holiday hotel. While the other hotel guests limber up, the girls are told about Kai's repeating for throughout the week.
So Kai from Shush is going to introduce herself, and she's got some little prizes down.
We did think that if I was to bring out a load of sex toys, they might get stopped at customs. And in actual fact, and I am, wearing donation clothes, but luckily I was carrying the gifts that we're going to give out in hand luggage, so we still have sex toys. And what we're going to be doing is handing out certificates for the week. So there are several different categories. We've got Lush of the Week, Lech of the Week, and Hussy of the Week. Go out. We're going to be watching you and scoring you, so to speak. And the award ceremony will be on
Monday night is the award ceremony.
See you later at 10:30, flashlight, darts, and etc.
Yeah, I'm Shana, aka Crystal, the dancing diva, or so they say. Yeah, and we have our anniversary actually. Yes, it's about a year now. We're the DJ and the dancer.
Since arriving at Lesbos Airport, Shana and Dion are enjoying their new star status.
That's the one you want to put out. We have nothing but love. Big love. Big love.
Christos, the hotel manager, greets the news crew and explains why they are here.
Uno, dos, tres. Here we go.
They want to make a follow-up on the whole story, but from the positive side. They have no problem with anything that's happening, as long as...
Alpha News seem far more interested in looking at Shana than hearing what she has to say.
Would you like to ask some questions? She can talk along, This is the first time we've come to Lesbos, and as far as we can see, we've had so much attention that we haven't really had time to find out, but we're having a brilliant time. The women here are beautiful. To say this is the first day I've actually been able to get up and spend a day in Lesbos. So we're not here to piss anybody off. We're here as a group to have a good time, and whoever wants to join us, whether the lesbians can accept having a good time, is only having a good time and nothing more than that. We're not going to upset anybody. The only thing that's going to upset somebody is that. I know. Okay, but that's all good, darling. We're fine. It's pool life, pool party time.
A pair of single lesbian girls, who's keeping her eyes open, and Sheila, who's out for a good time and already getting some practice in. Josephina is single and from Denmark. She's not part of the London group, but is on holiday in Lesbos after an 8-year relationship and is keen to join in with the fun.
Lesbian Olympics in the sun. Candy girls are having fun.
All right, so who's taking part?
The girls decide to have an alternative Olympics, including a wet T-shirt competition, lesbian style.
Yeah, I've been here before. 2 months ago, September now. I was here in June with my mother.
Hello, Josephina. Are you Josephina?
Yes, I am.
Fantastic. And you're Danish?
Yes.
So can you be on the Scandinavian team?
Of course I can.
In these games, there are no clear rules.
This is the winning line.
Shana just makes it up as she goes along.
Oh! The super thing. Hey! Hand down. England is currently holding first position in every event because we've only done one. Next up is the breaststroke. To the boy and back in the quickest time. Scandinavia, Holland and England. European dyke style. Very good. Ready? Go!
Beautiful!
It's very smooth indeed.
I think she's brilliant. Hello?
Josephina, with your special prize here.
Yes!
Dig it. There you go, right.
Step forward. Finalist number 1. Finalist number 2. And
Everybody's so loud and exhausting. I'm probably one of the most antisocial people you could ever meet. Apparently it's due to my Capricorn sort of sensibilities. So I'm kind of finding myself a bit in lesbian hell. I can't say I'm utterly struck by anybody. But for me, a lot of the time, the chase is so much more pleasurable than the actual doing. And, you know, I don't know. We'll see. Never say never.
And so that night, Kai joins the rest of the girls at a local lesbian bar for an evening of drinking and dancing candy bar style. And some local boys enjoyed the fun. Nobody took Kai's fancy that night, but Sheila seems to be having a bit more action.
We have a problem. Okay, it's rather embarrassing. But this lady lost her luggage, her bag, and it hasn't arrived here. And she's trying to find underwear, buy underwear. They don't have
τέτοια portafoglio dietro grossa.
We're off to find some knickers, some wonderful knickers.
So we're now trying to find Victoria's Secrets. Not LA.
There's one shop in Little Rossos that might just kit me out with some clothes. And it's down this way.
Underlayer. Must cover.
Leather? No. She means underwear.
Yeah, this is the shop, Victoria.
Oh, right. That we tried.
No, it's
The town all rallied together. We'll get it sorted. I don't think this is going to do. This man here looks very...
I don't have the kids.
Are you from Laos?
Yes.
Right. I'm Rachel. I'm Rachel. I'm from Candy Bar.
Ah, yes.
Yeah,
from the Candy Bar.
we're seeing you Sunday.
Yes, but
this is Kai.
this is Kai.
Hi.
And there's
This is
one
from Laos,
other girl.
Laos. Oh, okay.
Rachel and Kai realise that Theo, their knight in shining armour, owns Naos, the venue where they will be holding the week's main club event. This is where Shana plans to perform erotic dancing.
God.
So I don't think you will find underwear here.
No.
It's too difficult.
Elsewhere in town, the peace is under threat again. The mayor is trying to close down Lena's bar, where one of the week's main events...
Gizo means I close with a paper.
Yes.
So nobody can come
Yes.
in, not even me. This police does that.
Because you were supposed to do an event, weren't you here?
Yes.
And they close you now.
Yes. That he has to cancel this decision for all of us for these reasons. Because I find out that this is not legal the way that he made close. Because I was talking with my lawyer now.
Okay, so I'll go back now in case somebody's coming.
C-word, controversy. Will the girls get labelled at the flirt party? Will the club night make the women come?
300 straight Because I'm gonna have to
It is the day of the big nightclub event, and Shana and Joe are discussing just how erotic Shana's dancing should be.
Are you stripping? Do you know what you're doing? I mean, are you just going to take it as it comes?
Yeah. I mean, I won't be stripping full out because I'm not sure about the licenses here, and I'm not going to get into trouble showing my nipples. What I will be doing probably is put on a costume with a little bikini under it, like a flashy one, and just take that off. And stay dancing in my black boots.
You know there's a possibility that the TV cameras are just going to be there, and if they're there, it's very hard for us to bar entry to them.
I'm not going to be doing erotic dancing the way they think it is.
Yeah.
I'm not a laptop dancer. My main thing is going to be to get the crowd going. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to play. It's not titillation. That's not my thing. I'm trying to be extremely sexy because it catches the attention of whoever is watching, but then kind of hype them up, dance and have a good time.
I just hope we don't get 300 men outside the door saying we want to come in, because actually we can't stop them.
Psychology works, yeah. If I've got 2 bouncers to bring me on,
you'll be fine.
No one's going to touch me.
Theo and Paniotis will look after you, but what you need to do when you go there this afternoon, just explain to them concisely what your concerns are, but it's a situation that's been created, and it's been created by you guys, unfortunately. So you know what I mean? You've done your own advertising for this one, girls.
So we don't have to send out no flyers to you. They're all going to be there. Lovely. Loads of money.
Excuse me, can I just... Hi. Don't go away. Don't go away.
Scared him already.
Life continues as normal at the hotel resort, but Kai has a surprise waiting for her in her room. Her bag has been found.
So, my knickers have arrived. And these are my chosen knickers. Inside her. So cute and tight. And these are the ones that I got donated last night. Somebody found them in the Elusive Victoria's shop. So these are original lesbian knickers.
While Kai sorts out her wardrobe, Dion, Rachel and Shana drum up punters for their big night at Naos.
What time are you performing?
All night long, darling.
Oh, wicked. You mean you can go all night long?
I can go all night long and longer.
And longer?
Longer.
So the story goes.
Right, I'll be there at 10 or 11.
Wipe your brow, darling. It's going to be hot.
I'll be there at 11 then.
I love it. Fantastic. See you later, girls.
Performance. Others are horrified by the changes the girls are bringing to the town.
Naos?
We never go there.
No?
We don't go there.
So?
We heard about the last oh no.
Oh, okay. No worries.
No, get up.
Party. Learned about last night.
Is she?
That's why they didn't want to come.
That made me was disgusting. So I'm boycotting tonight the party at the Naos Club.
If they knew anything about the candy bar or whatever, they'd know that we put on a good party and we don't put on
Well, they came yesterday, would have seen.
orgies or whatever for the misconception going on here.
And what got me more upset, I was talking to the go-go dancer, and she said, "Oh, you know what? I'm getting paid for that. I do that." And I said, like, "Oh my God! If it's so easy to buy a dyke, well then."
And just let us know basically why she was boycotting the club tonight. The hate in her voice towards Shana was. I was speechless. I could really go and sock her because why isn't she doing that hate to the mayor, who's the real culprit here?
And so while the media turned up, as did some men, many townswomen didn't. Undeterred, the girls partied on, and Shana got to dance at last, but kept her pants on.
Wanna play for you, want a real dance music. Wanna play for you, wanna play for you.
inside, it's girls behaving badly.
Okay, baby. I see you, baby. What's the local thing? Sambuca. Yeah. Ouzo. Ooh, 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 ouzo. How is Sambuca? No, ouzo. Okay, that's a girlfriend over there, right? Oh, she's fine. She's so liberal. She's actually gonna join in with us. I'm not joking. We're talking like an amazing. When we get home tonight. You know you want it. You know you want it.
We'll be back next year with more women and we'll have a bigger party.
And we will tell them to behave themselves and so forth.
Oh, they always do.
They always do. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just keep it going.
Want to have fun.
Hopefully. Party on. 5.
Good to hear.
Very good. Well done, babe.
Well done, baby. Well done, girl.
The night ended up as... It was even more of a success for single girls Sheila and Kai, spotted by eagle-eye Rachel as they get it together. The next day, life continued, but the Women's Week activities are still a talking point. For the girls, however, it's all just good holiday fun.
It's dying. It's not funny. And I got laid last night. Okay, my God. Can't tell you who, but yeah. I think there was a lot of that going on last night. Oh, there was. Oh, yeah. I didn't.
It's just got very loud, really. Hasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And we're disappointed because that's not what the idea was.
Another secret, they shagged as well. Apparently, we saw them on the balcony at it. Yeah, all night long. Drinking. It's not good.
Yes, these women have come to party. But actually, the Women's Week for us was never about just partying. It was also about seeing other places, about doing different things, about enjoying traditional Greek evenings. And what we've got now is we've got a group of women who are party, party, party.
The morality of Greek people is still different from Europe. The mentality is still traditional a lot. Greece is changing many years. Other places like Kos, Rhodos are full of, big hotels. And I think it's just that a restaurant is bigger.
As the girls warm up for the flirting party, Lena is still unsure if it will go ahead at all. She's waiting anxiously for a decision from the mayor.
Για μια εβδομάδα. Ναι. Όχι, αλλά να στέλνετε η απόφαση. That's the very good news now. But this means that we are not closing today.
And so the mayor admits defeat and the flirting party goes ahead.
Sorry.
The preparations are interrupted by another news report on the Women's Week, which is broadcast in the town square.
It was positive. Just we're laughing of the, in front of the camera.
The flirting party is an opportunity for the single girls to hook up. Tonight, Josephina is out to play, and while Sheila and Kai may have copped off...
More sex, definitely all for it, you know what I mean? Who wants more sex? More sex, babe? More sex? There you take on my number.
So I have a message here saying, I saw your smile in Lena's bar, which is where we are, I think. You are the most sexy woman here, and I want to meet you at the Katina on the beach at 2 o'clock. So I have a date.
all your love anticipated. Hurry up and come.
There seems to be some kind of dynamic between Sheila and Josephina.
I won't be the one who says life cannot be one big party. It's not that.
Okay, life is one big party.
And it is what you want.
Women and fun, I say, go together. So it's actually quite refreshing. She's actually having a conversation with me today. Not that I want a conversation, so I just want to get her in. Listen, it's my opinion, okay? I'm having fun now. And when I get older, I don't want to be like this. And that's fine. No, yeah, but who are you to say that's wrong? And who are you to say that I should activate my mind?
I'm no judge.
So when you went away, she was seriously provocative, and I think us two are going to get together.
I got one message, but I don't know from whom.
I didn't get much action, it has to be said. I'm a little disappointed. Maybe I think they're all scared of, Kim Lucas. That's what I'm going to put it down to. And I'm wearing this frigging t-shirt. I've got to be more inviting. So, do too well either. So we're feeling like, a bit. But Charlotte did well. Kai did well.
Maybe I'll wander down to the cantina at 2 o'clock and see who that little message was from.
So, what are you doing after this then?
Get home or?
No, after here. Tonight. You don't know? No. Am I coming with you?
Huh?
Am I coming with you?
I lost my watch 2 days ago.
I'm going to have to wrestle her away from the scary Danish bird in a minute.
Can I ask you a question?
Can I ask you a question?
Oh my God! Whoa.
I want to ask you.
Yeah.
I don't know what was happening there. If you want the Swedish bird, you have the Swedish bird.
In part 4, the girls get an inflated opinion of themselves at the controversial wet pussy pool party and the lesbian Oscars. Who will win Hussy of the Week?
We're trying to be a bit.
So you guys just chilling after last night?
We're trying to be a bit getting. Yeah, and last night was fine actually. It was comparatively not too late at night. Although I think some of the girls are still out till late. Can't stop them.
While Kai succeeded in winning Sheila from Josephina last night, today she's remaining tight-lipped.
Was there any gossip?
Gossip, Kim.
There is no gossip.
You have to read between the lines on that one, won't you? I'll talk to you later.
Feeling in the town.
We're sort of dividing the town a bit, I think. We're getting some of the women who spend a lot of time here are completely anti what we're doing, and some are okay, Of course, it's a culture clash as well, definitely. I mean, the whole package holiday thing has always had a bit of a reputation anyway, so to sort of create lesbian ones is a bit of a, it's a new thing.
Because everyone talks about it so much, like wherever you go, everyone has to have this Stein viewpoint. And sometimes I'm really not interested in what they think, because I'm not that bothered, you know what I mean? We're just out here. And
people don't like change, and people are possibly concerned that, we're trying to turn Scala Rossos into something that they're not used to, not happy with, or don't want, but it's not true. All we're doing is coming here for 1 week of the year and offering alternative and, other kinds of entertainment.
Oh, it's just one of them days, I don't know. Everyone's woke up a bit. I think it's hangovers.
Probably pissed off Greek people and pissed off lesbians. Now I'm going to piss off the hotel people. So
Make it a hat trick, Kim.
might as well, eh?
Okay, let's go for it.
And so it was time for the party which sparked off all the trouble on this little island, the Wet Pussy Pool Party.
It's just supposed to be a girls' pool party because it's coming to the end of the week. And we're just going to hang out, chill out, have a bit of a boogie.
¡Oh, yeah! ¡Me casa duro! ¡Duro! ¡La figa
This is Mary! When I come out in performance mode, so to speak, it's Crystal. I'm not. That's what I tell people my name is when I meet them in clubs. I'm not really bothered. Myself is something different. Sean is kind of different from Crystal. As much as I put quite a bit of myself into it, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be able to create art. It still is Crystal, do you know what I mean? You switch out of mode and then you switch into mode and then you switch out of mode when the work is done. Last night I had some positive feedback from some of them actually saying they respect the fact that I am just myself. Some other women seem to have this category and men will look at me because of the way I look, but I'm not really here to feed anybody's stereotypes or break down anybody's ideas who are preconceived. I'm just myself.
You don't look gay, do you? You don't
Oh,
look
you
like
mean
you don't look like the trademark.
Oh yeah, no, they don't.
The
But
boys love her because she looks so straight. Got a sore lip, man. It's still throbbing, man. Leave it. No.
Kiss my eyes,
They're not there, babe.
And Joanna take the afternoon off to catch up with Lena and take stock of what this week has meant for all of them.
Look at this. I want this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. We're going to camp out at Lena's from now on because we've just realised that you can come up here and you can look down on this crazy little village where everything's going on and everything's so stressful. And Lena, you get away from it, and you do.
I love this place. It's beautiful. But for sure, I would like to change some things here before I make definitely my decision to be here. Because it's nice to live in a place that you can feel free also.
I think this leaflet was just a red ball to a rag. No, a red rag to a ball even. I mean, it was just the catalyst to set off a whole chain of events that were in motion already, and I think that's what we really have to worry about.
This was the thing, that it showed us the homophobia that there is around this place, and I think we had, like Joe said, an opportunity to do something about this.
We all have to make some serious decisions about how we progress and carry on bringing people here, and women.
A wet possible party, of course, all this problem.
Joanna's mother said, all this, me.
And so it is the Candy Bar Girls' last night in Lesbos. It's time to award the special prizes for the week's most outrageous women, some of whom are still busy.
I'm on the pool. Please stop. I am so on the pool.
Now pulling out the all-important diploma. Yet another Lesbo-loving Lesbos 2000 certificate of sauciness. This Way Lynn. Yes, yes. Congratulations on your win. And here is your goodie bag from Shush. First prize, the most wanted woman on the island of Lesbos, apart from Sapphic, but she's dead, is of course the one, the only, the truly fantastic Sheila. From London, the most wanted of the week. Big hand up for Sheila.
This week was quite different than I expected. Sometimes you're in the superficial mood, sometimes not. I think I wanted something deeper and was not in the mood to get into this candy girl wall, to swim into it. So I think if I met some of these people, you know, one by one, whatever, it would be a different thing. And it's okay.
And you need some batteries with that. Now you got batteries. Off they go, making very good use of their little products. And so we're of course to reach the end of our awards ceremony.
Am I your best beach? You're my best beach, yeah. Beach girl.
Christos tells the girls he wants them back again next year.
He talks about regeneration of the area and what cultural thing right into it as a main feature.
So 54 rooms in there. That's 108 women. That's what we've got to get next year. We'll have that whole wing.
We're not going to have any problem, Kim. It's going to spiral.
And then by the year 2010, we'll have the whole island. It's the Candy Boy Island. Welcome to Candy
Breed that are just putting a bit more of a smile and a bit more fun and sexiness into it. You know, I don't like the dowdy old stereotypes. Diss the stereotypes. You know, diss.
We should be in Big Sister. Hello, all the channels are in you. We can make a Big Sister program with a house full of lesbians for 10 weeks, and the winner gets 100 grand. And the challenge is that'll make a program and a half, wouldn't it?
And so the girls intend to return with their new generation lesbian holidays. But will Sappho travel and the candy bar be able to work together in the again at all?
Bye. Bye, Lesbos. See you next year. Get ready, honey. Oh, my crotch.
Want a real dance music?
It's hot in here.
Daira, your face is killing me right now. I'm so sorry.
What the hell? You're telling me this was supposed to be... I probably made many faces throughout that whole thing. Many faces were made.
I'm telling you, this was supposed to be what?
Oh yeah, this was supposed to be emotional or some shit.
Oh, I just get emotional. I just give a warning because I'm just emotional. But yeah, it's not emotional. I said it brings up strong. I said I cry every time. Doesn't mean that everyone else will. I'm just a baby.
Did you cry?
My eyes got watery.
Oh.
I don't know. I love this. I've seen it so many times. It makes my heart so warm. And I don't know, the parts that are like obviously hard to watch or difficult, like seeing the interactions, I'm still just like so
upset about it for me.
Yeah, that. And I'm also just like impressed with the fact that they like kept everything going. Like I think it would have been really easy to like not do any of those activities or to like change them, but they kept calling them the same things throughout it, and I really liked that.
I was just upset that like they got so much pushback, you know, with like the I guess like not the origin but like the history of the island, you know.
Yeah. And I think also just the men being creepy in general is a whole other thing, especially with
yeah.
But yeah. But yeah, it's definitely more of a fun time than it is emotional. I just get emotional seeing people seeing people have fun, seeing them be happy, and then also when they're like defending themselves, I just get like emotional. But
they were just trying to have fun and bring liveliness and queer joy, you know?
And they still did, I feel like. Which
they so did. The way that they kept that going, that go-go dancer girl, I can't remember what her name is, but she kept the vibes. She was carrying.
Yeah, I love her.
The whole time.
Ideal. Want to be like her when I grow up.
Yeah, me too. That's an icon, if I ever seen one.
Especially on the pole. I was so impressed. I don't know how she does that. I've never seen anything like that.
I don't have the strength. I don't have the grip strength. I don't have the arm strength. I don't have
core strength. I don't
have any of it.
No. But I love it. And again, like this link is also on the 101 panel. I know it's kind of funky watching from a stream and whatever, and that there's ads. But if you want to watch it, you can.
Strength.
It is groin strength. It is. True, because you gotta like push your legs all the way. But yeah, it's at the bottom here. And this should be updated, by the way, Daira, with everything that you gave me. So.
Okay.
But yeah, we have quite a few other options here if you want to continue going on and learning more. I will be adding a copy of our presentation slides and a VOD. I might edit it. I'll try to edit it if the VOD saves properly. If it doesn't save properly, then I'll just put everything in the caption on the VOD that's on Twitch. But thank you, Daira, for being here, and you did so much research and just you brought a lot of really good insight and information.
Yeah.
I appreciate it a lot.
Thank you for having me. If anyone doesn't know, like Jade basically put up a story on their Instagram and then asked if anybody would be interested in this type of panel, and I was just like, me, yes please. And Jade chose me, and thank you.
I was really happy you were willing to do it, and thank y'all for showing up and being here. We will continue raising funds for the archives throughout this month as well, but I don't know. This is my first panel as well, so like I am very happy I got to be on something I feel very passionate about and with someone that I really admire and respect. And like I really don't want you to give yourself, I know we're public, I don't give a fuck if we're public right now. I don't want you to give yourself a hard time at all. I think you brought a lot of really good insight moments and things that I did not have the spoons to research or to add in, so I do really appreciate that a lot.
Of course.
Oh, and making our graphics. And making our graphics for us to post.
Yes, and for you, like you basically did everything. Okay, I maybe did like 10%. Okay, so please, everyone, give it up for Jade, because
and give it up for Daira.
Okay, give it up for Jade.
And give it up for Daira.
Okay.